Hello and welcome inside Scores Table Season 3 debut. Brian Haenchen, Danny Riego here with you. It's been a long offseason, Danny, and welcome back. How are you?
I'm great. It's good to see you two-dimensionally.
It is. It's been too long. I don't think we've talked very much since the end of last season.
No, we haven't. But I have caught up on your stuff. How did you like covering the Fever?
That was a lot of fun, man. I tell you what, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. Honestly, like it was just such an unbelievable ride. Like the game that I always go back to is that Connecticut game when Sophie Cunningham goes down with injury. They're down 21, and it feels like this is curtains on their season. It's like this is going to be too much. And instead, it was the turning point and the launching point for their season. It was a really fun team to be around. Like Chloe Peterson, we do a show together on the Fever side of things, and we talked about that a lot and just how unique a group it was to be around. It really was. Like you can tell, you see it a lot at the high school level, obviously, and we talk about it a lot. You can tell when it's genuine love among the players, and that's the way it was with the Fever. And they were such a fun and intriguing team to cover, even without Caitlin Clark available to play most of the year. Honestly, that kind of added to the fun of it and the intrigue of the whole thing. And man, that was crazy. And the fact that they came as close as they did to making the WNBA finals. I mean, you give me 1,001 odds, and I'm not sure that I would have put any significant money on that because that was unbelievable.
Yeah, it put a lot on it. A lot of interest coming off the Pacer stuff in the summer, and then with how good the fall has been with some of the in-state schools and football at all levels too. You know, I think basketball really kind of found its way. There was also a lot of Indiana interest too, because the team that knocked the Fever out had two of the Indiana high school greats on that team, and Dana Evans and Jackie Young, respectively. Yeah. So that Indiana fans couldn't really lose. I know that a lot of the majority of the audience is probably Fever fans and may not have actually known that Jackie and Dana were on that team in Indiana high school legends, but we couldn't really lose from an Indiana girls high school perspective through that run. But it was good seeing you covering the Fever and giving them and a lot of the same format. You know, I saw a lot of your shows with Chloe and all that.
Yeah, those shows are a little edgier. There's a little bit more swearing in those shows. So if you have young children around, maybe cover their ears from time to time because the comments there do get a little batty. They are not quite as fun and polite as they're here on the high school side. So be ready for that. But no, it's a lot of fun. I love doing it. I'm looking forward to next season. Obviously hope that the CBA gets through. And just quickly to plug that, we talked with Stephanie White for about an hour. She was gracious enough to give us about an hour the other day. So talked with her on a variety of topics, got off the basketball path a little bit, which is always fun, but she's awesome and a great ambassador for Indiana basketball as well, as is Jackie Young, like you mentioned. Her and Sky Diggins were here for the All-Star game, as folks probably remember over the summer, which was also a pretty cool moment for both of them. Jackie was down south christening a new gym, I think a new YMCA or something like that, where she played high school ball, which is pretty dang neat. Mm-hmm. But yeah, what's going on with you, man? You ready to get this thing, get the season rolling?
Yeah, well, I remember Halloween has always kind of marked the beginning of the season in my head. I mean, I think I remember going to games, but it just happened. Like it's like here. Yeah. I don't know if it was because I was doing other stuff or whatnot, but it just seems like it came up quicker than it did. But I'm really excited. And when you sent the text that we were going to get season 3 rolling, I had to give myself a little bit of a crash course, to be honest.
You and me both. And I've been not studying this stuff, but kind of studying this stuff for the past 3 weeks as I try to turn out the content. But my God, it did come up faster. Like it feels way earlier in October than it is. It's already October 29th. And for me, the mile marker is kind of the end of volleyball season, start of basketball, but it feels like it's later than normal. And I guess it's right on time. So it's quite the time. We should tell folks that we'll be joined for the 4A segment. We're going to work our way up from 1A to 4A. 4A segment, DeeAnn Ramey, the former North Central coach, is going to come with us to break it down, which is exciting. We have some other fun, big plans for season 3. Obviously, the graphics are pretty good. I'd say it looks pretty sharp. So we'll have that. We have some other guests that we're working on lining up already, guest hosts. Shout out Kaylee May is one of them. I told her to be careful because she's going to fall in love with doing the show with us, and we'll want to do it full time. And enough of this baloney about not wanting to do it or whatever she said. So we'll see if we can peer pressure her into becoming a regular. DeeAnn, obviously, like we mentioned, and whatever else. And then just one other housekeeping item before Danny and I start diving into things. Live shows, I think tentatively the plan is we'll do some live shows on Sunday. Those are pretty popular. Danny and I both enjoy doing them. Talk about the biggest games, and we'll pick our spots with the weekly shows, but obviously guest heavy will be the approach, and there's plenty to talk about throughout the season. And man, Danny, it's wide open across the board, it feels like, in all 4 classes. It'll be great. So yeah, like I said, we'll start with Class A. We're going to kind of not speed through, but we're going to touch on the Class A schools, the 2A schools a little bit, some of the big heavy hitters that we're familiar with, and then we'll move up to the bigger classes, and obviously we'll have guests on there from those smaller schools throughout the season. But as we dive into Class A, Danny, I think it's probably the best place to start is probably with Borden and Marquette Catholic, the two schools that most Borden, obviously defending state champions, Marquette Catholic, the one people expected to maybe see their opposite Borden. It wound up being Lafayette Central Catholic, who we'll also talk about here. But Borden brings everybody back from last year's state championship team. Ava Wheeler, I know, is coming off a knee injury, so she's not going to be available right away. But there's so many pieces around her that I think that it'll help bridge the gap a little bit so the players will be able to find their way. And then once Ava comes back, she'll have time to get up to speed, and Borden will be off and running into the postseason.
Yeah, starting with the defending state champion Borden, if you remember back to the state championship game, one of the things that we talked about was how they used their length in that kind of odd front zone. I don't know how I remember that, but
how did you pull that out of the?
But that like riding a bike, Hank. It's like riding a bike.
Yes, clearly.
But I think that was really interesting to see how that affected the game. I think one of the things that we talked about was the length and disruption that they had on the defensive side, but also kind of rebounding, things like that. If I remember, that was something that was relatively new that week. And so the one thing I think with the defending state champs is, what do they add to their bag this year that might be different from last year? I think they've had an entire off season. I think they've had an entire preseason. And as they get going through the regular season, they're going to continue to add and add and add to their bag to try to create some variety for their opponents. So I think that's one thing to kind of watch with Borden. I think with the Marquette Catholic side, we just saw the Division I commitment of Lanaya Davis. I think we've been talking about Lanaya for a couple of years, and head coach Katie Collignan has been on the show each of the last 2 years. It's not a surprise anymore that they're going to be really good. But what I do think is different about this year, particularly with Lanaya, is I think there's probably some large class and large market familiarity with her game moving into the season, more so than any other year. This is one of the best guards in the state. And we've seen her play at the highest level throughout the tournament. But I think what we're going to see now is maybe us follow her maybe a little bit more through the regular season. Also, she's got her running mate, Marissa Pleasant, back, who makes a ton of threes. But Katie's going to have a really good team back. And that one is, look, those smaller classes are always really chalky, because if you have good players, it's really tough to circumvent that and beat them. They become really, really tough outs. But look, are we on a collision course to just have the same two teams, Hank?
Could be. It could be. I mean, it could be the Final Four might look strikingly similar to what it was last year, with Marquette Catholic in there, Lafayette Central Catholic, and Borden out of the South. They're really good. Borden also brings back Riley Rarick, AJ Mallon, McKenna Mullen, Ava, and Emma Hart. They're all established varsity kids, like I said, so they're gonna have no problems there. And you mentioned the odd front defense, and that was something that they rolled out there specifically for that state championship game, I believe. I think it was.
They didn't graduate anybody.
No, they graduated one senior who moved into a bench role last year and was kind of like a big glue piece and a critical leader for that team. But everybody else is back. So personnel-wise, it's basically the same team. All five starters are back. Once Ava's healthy, they'll have that. Marquette Catholic on the other side, they did graduate. Their other starters beyond Lanaya Davis, Marissa Pleasant, and Addison Penzall. So it's going to be kind of a depth development process for Katie over the course of the season. I'd say they had 4 other players who appeared in all 28 games and all 4 graduated. But, I mean, they play a tough schedule that's going to have them ready for that as well. And then Lafayette Central Catholic, we were talking before the show, they feel like one of those schools that's going to kind of slip under the radar a little bit because they graduated such an important group of seniors from last year. But they returned the Schuessler kid. They returned Brooke Thompson and Craig DeWitt or Craig DeVault over there. Craig, I apologize, Craig, for butchering your last name, but Craig does such a phenomenal job having those girls ready year after year, and they grow up around and in that system. So it's kind of just ingrained in them. So they're ready to – they come out prepackaged and ready to go when they hit the floor for their varsity careers.
You're not kidding there. Carly Barrett, made the Purdue roster, which I think is which is great. Kind of the local hero kind of staying around, and they get to cheer her on up there in Lafayette. But the thing about Lafayette Central Catholic is, yes, we know about Brooke Thompson. Okay. I mean, if you don't, okay, one of the best young talents in the state. Very, very good basketball player. A huge part of their postseason run last year. She's going to step to the forefront this year. But we just don't know who. I mean, I didn't, admittedly, wasn't that familiar with Brooke Thompson's game 365 days ago when I sat here, right? And so the one thing about Lafayette Central Catholic is they're going to have other players. We just might not know who they are yet. We're going to, though, because they are always there, seemingly always there.
Yeah, they are. It's like the death taxes thing that Sable likes to beat into the ground. That's another one of those teams that's just always around and always successful. Outside of the familiar suspects, let's talk about Westville. Hillary Labis, the sophomore. She had a great freshman season, earned a spot on the Indiana Future All-Stars team, averaged 21 points, 8.3 rebounds for them. They're a team. I based a lot of my research and where I geared it to try to focus it in on the rankings from last year. And I admittedly kind of forgot about Westville, and they kind of popped on my radar after Hillary made the Futures roster. It's a dang good piece to build around, especially at the Class A level when you have a kid that can score it at that high a clip. So they're definitely one to keep an eye on over there as I continue to pilfer through my notes.
Hillary's a heck of a player. Okay. The one thing different about Hillary this year than maybe last year is she went through an entire probably 40-game stretch this year playing with and against really good talent. She's got multiple Division I offers. That's another name that if you get outside of the Indianapolis area, it. You might be familiar with it, but you probably don't have a long library of sitting and watching it. But Hillary figures to be one of the bigger storylines in the smaller classes kind of moving forward. And as we get into some of the, like Kenzie Cook is a great example, right? Like, Kenzie Cook, kids like that, when they play in smaller classes, they put up big numbers. They introduce themselves to a large widespread audience across the state. And I think Hillary is one of those kids who I really, really like her game. I think she's complete. I think she does a lot of different things well. I think she can score. She's tough. She's physical. She plays both ends of the floor. To see her lead a basketball team, I think is going to be really, really fun for all of us.
Trying out something new with this. You look at Westville's schedule. I mean, they come right out of the gates with Marquette Catholic. They're a trip out there. Westville does. So I mean, they're gonna get to test themselves right out of the gates. You have South Bend Washington obviously down a little bit, but they get them towards the end of the year. So it's a solid schedule that they've built over there.
Do you have somebody feeding you stats in your earpiece too? Because this Hank, season 3. No, we were slumming it in season 1 and season 2 without that.
I know we were like, this show is going to make us look like peasants back in the day. Just a couple of kids with like a laptop computer.
The Sable back in the Sable Courtney days.
The Sable days were remembered as a dark age just for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
Orleans, I have written down here as well. They're another school that finished season ranked, high expectations, who returned two of their top 3 scores with Alston and Ralph. Alston averaged over almost 14 a game plus 5 rebounds. Ralph was dishing out a couple assists per game. That's Chelsea Ralph and Callie Alston, for the record. I'm still learning names, so apologies for that. But that's another team to keep an eye on. And then Old Dominion Academy is another one that I have written down with a question mark next to it. So shout out to the Twisters. Danny.
Listen, I don't. You can bookmark this, okay, Orleans, okay? But I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it on a map in Indiana right now. I don't know. But that's the beauty. That encapsulates the beauty of Indiana girls high school basketball, right? Because they're ballers, and we'll familiarize ourselves with them and their scheme and their coach throughout the year. And I say that with all sincerity. I also say it in jest. Okay, like they don't have anything to worry about in regards to the coverage. If you play and you play well, I mean, we'll cover you, and you're going to get covered, and you're going to get your sound. But that just shows the cyclical nature, I think, of Indiana girls high school basketball. Is that come Halloween, it could be anybody, Orleans included.
Oh, I mean, last year Northeast Du Bois, the Jeeps. a name that I
Yes.
struggled with. Like they came out of nowhere. I knew nothing about Northeast Du Bois before they went on that run in the tournament. That's a perfect example. Whitko, a team that we'll talk about here in a little bit, another one that just kind of popped up. So it's cool, just the nature of how these small towns girls basketball kind of puts them on the map.
Yep.
Any other Class A thoughts before we move uncomfortably to 2A?
No. Well, let's talk 2A.
Let's start with the defending state champion, South Knox. Graduated some pieces, returned Kendall Hill, one half of Brendel, as it was known. They returned Grace Detweiler. They're a really good-looking team coming into this year.
Yeah, that they know how to win, right? They covered. They played a very tough schedule last year. They climbed their the steps that they had to climb in order to get to that state championship. The cross county rival. Things like that. I think they had a really good showing in the Hall of Fame in Newcastle last year. And I think all of those things kind of led to their state championship. But the cupboard is not bare at all. Kendall Hill's a bona fide Division I kid. She is coming off of an injury, but she is one of those kids that I think, and Holly, I think would admit this to you as well, head coach at South Knox would say, she was a big reason that they were so successful because she makes all of her teammates better. Mm-hmm. The reason why I kind of center on Kendall Hill is because it's not her sister doesn't mean she's not going to make other players better. Like they got a 29 on their team that probably nobody knows right now. Her name is Brinley Millspaw. She's been a kid that figured in this coming season to be a part of the rotation. Holly said as much. Brinley has to go out and perform, but she gets Kendall Hill alongside of her, who has 2 years experience of making all of her teammates better. And then Grace Detweiler is one of the better two-way players down there in the area. I mean, just her ability to play both ends of the floor, I think, is always going to be valuable. I remember her in the state championship. I think if I remember right, I think she drew the Courtney Matthew assignment. And there's another name, right? Like Courtney Matthew was a kid who we probably didn't talk about until 2 weeks left in the season on this podcast, and is now one of the best 27s in the state, and should be a household name if it's not Courtney Matthew, everybody. But I think Grace Detweiler drew that assignment and did one heck of a job on the defensive side. So South Knox, it's still their world. But we'll see what happens with the cross county, because Lexi's still there and North Knox, and I'm sure they're chomping at the bit to dethrone their cross county rivals.
That's where I was going to go next was North Knox. They're an interesting spot because obviously Lexi Primus is back. The Lipscomb commit 13 points a game last year. But then the next two leading scorers are gone. So it's kind of a question of who steps up. They have a couple girls here, a couple incoming seniors in Jade Richter and Bailey McClure, who are both around 8 points a game. How do they develop? How do they up their scoring? Because otherwise it'll be obviously pretty easy for teams just keying on Lexi, which will make it difficult, especially against a team like South Knox that has the depth to match up against them. But they're certainly going to be a threat out of that sectional in Class 2A coming into the year.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Lexi play. I think, when you go back and look at the North Knox, South Knox games last year and kind of leading up to the postseason runs of both of them, Lexi had to do a lot, a lot, guarding the best player. And I don't think it's all that dissimilar this year. But with South Knox graduating, right? I mean, let's say Detweiler, for example, in a game that we'll break down because we'll have it, we'll talk about it. It'd be one of the probably live shows that we do. You take Detweiler, for example, at South Knox, and you put her on Primus. If Primus can win, for example, the 1v1 matchup with Detweiler and Primus, then it kind of brings it down to those other players that maybe haven't ascended yet. The names that you mentioned out of North Knox, the names that I mentioned out of South Knox. So there is a lot, I think, but I also think that Lexi coming into a year where she doesn't have to worry about her recruitment, she doesn't have to worry about the expectations that are on her, I think could be a very good thing too. I think she just gets to play, have fun her senior year, and we'll see what happens as the season progresses. Another
team out of 2A, and this shifts up to the north, is Whitko. They were another one of those teams, like we mentioned, that just kind of popped up and came onto our radars as the tournament progressed. I believe it was semi-state. They run to semi-state, a team that hadn't won a sectional prior to that, I believe. They came back. They returned both of the Stonebreakers histories. You put up big numbers for them. They'll be a team to watch, as well as, like Danny mentioned, Rensselaer Central, the defending state runner-ups, a team that's very long. They graduated a couple big pieces from a year ago, and Taylor Von Meter being their second leading scorer, Carly Drone, but they return a bunch else. Camry Rowland is another big name to know. She was their leading scorer from a year ago. Courtney Matthew, like Danny mentioned, and then Radke as well, the coach's daughter. Phenomenal defender there too. So they're a team that's going to be poised and ready to raise a ruckus too in 2A.
Roland and Matthew have to be one of the best backcourts in 2A. And if you subscribe to the theory that guards win games, they are going to win a ton of basketball games because they just have two really good guards with the experience of a postseason run. You mentioned, Coach Jordan and Whitko and what they have going on. And that's another one too. I can't confirm this, but I do know, or I have heard that there were, maybe a couple of enrollments. I think that makes that roster kind of interesting, and we'll see what happens. But, without, like I said, it's just not confirmed. I'm trying to break anything here, but I do know that area. I mean, we talked about Hillary in A. Now we're talking about the Rensselaer kids, and we're talking about JJ's kid. I mean, it could be, and as we get into the 4A, we're going to start talking about it. I think the one thing that is interesting about this year is geographically, I think there's a ton of talent north of, let's say, Anderson. Now extending all the way, and we'll get into, the Warsaw piece and all of that. And, obviously what Homestead has going on, and maybe the top player, one of the top players in 28, or all the top players. It seems like all the top players in 28 are all up in Fort Wayne.
Play for Rod Parker.
But that area, I think that I talked about the cyclical nature. I think this is kind of that Northeast Indiana opportunity to really establish themselves as one of the most interesting pockets of basketball in Indiana girls this coming season.
Northeastern, they'll come down and play Eastern Hancock. They host a big tournament during the season too, which is always worth the price of admission just based on the teams they invite. They graduated Ava Meixel, but they return Addie Kirscher, who's going into her senior season after averaging 17 last year. They beefed up their schedule. The matchup between them and Kenzie Cook at Eastern Hancock at the end of the season will be a lot of fun. Eastern Hancock, that segues perfectly. I'm really excited for them. Kenzie is just a phenomenal talent. She's a tremendous scorer and even better passer. You have her, Bella Sotelo, back for another season together. That's a solid team ready to make some noise in what should be a winnable sectional for them.
Yeah, Sotelo, we talk about every year with her athleticism. I think she's a tremendous track athlete that can fly. She can outrun any break, and she gets out in front of Kenzie, and I think does a really good job of taking a lot of pressure off of her and creating a lot of space when Kenzie does have the basketball. Also on the defensive side, Sotelo does probably get some of the tougher on-ball assignments. But a congratulations to Kenzie Cook and her commitment, and it's really nice that she gets to stay in state to Ball State. And if you look, Allie Becky, state champ, Carson Norman, state champ, Brooke Winchester, state finalist. If you just look at the Indiana kids, and it's just all off the top of my head, the Smith twins started there before transferring out, but those two kids also in Gainbridge. There has been dedication by that staff of Brady and Ball State to recruit in-state kids that win. And the one thing that I think Kenzie Cook wants to do more than anything is be an in-state kid that wins. And so that's going to be the interesting thing for Kenzie Cook and Eastern Hancock this year, is they've always been a relevant story. They've always racked up wins, but we haven't seen them on state championship Saturday yet. And so I think this is a year that I do think that as Kenzie gets a little bit older, and again, we talked about it with like Lexi Primus, for example, without the pressures of her external recruitment and college recruitment to deal with, can Kenzie Cook take Eastern Hancock and kind of turn the corner? Because she's been on the corner for each of the last two seasons. To see if she can turn it, I think will be really interesting. But congratulations to Eastern Hancock and Kenzie on the commitment.
Looking quickly too at Eastern Hancock's schedule, that was a point, something that Kenzie and I talked about at IndyStar Media Day, is just how they've beefed up their schedule. That TBA there at Brownsburg is going to be Valparaiso, so you get Lily Barnes versus Kenzie Cook and company. That'll be a really fun matchup. Greensburg, state finalist from a year ago. Lapel's a staple. Cathedral has some very good young talent. And then also you add in there the Northeastern, as you mentioned, and New Palestine as well. So there's a lot of talent, or a lot of challenging games on there for Eastern Hancock. It's exciting to see them beefing up their schedule under Lindsay Shaw in her second season back with the school, 6th overall.
I didn't realize that Valpo was on the schedule. That's the matchup of the two future Ball State Cardinals. Lily Barnes also committing to Ball State too. So that will be super fun. There'll be a lot of pictures, I guess, taken after that game probably.
Yeah, that's going to be a phenomenal game for sure. Wanted to mention Brownstown Central. They graduated a lot, but they're another one of those teams that's just always there. Like for volleyball, for instance, they made it to state last year. They're back in semi-state this year. A lot of those girls play basketball as well. So they're going to be knocking on the doorstep. And then Danny, too, another local team that we need to talk about is Lapel and Lanaya Wills and what Zach Newby has cooking over there, because Lapel is looking really good and are built. And I know that this is Lanaya's main focus coming into the year, but they're built for another return trip to Cambridge 3 years ago for the second time in 4 years.
Yeah, and for those that follow Indiana girls basketball kind of year round, I think Lanaya coming back, I think it means a lot to all of us. I know that she missed some time and we haven't seen her, be at her best. Yeah, I mean, look, this is the big swan song, I think, with Lanaya and Newbie and Lapel in that area that one more time to kind of punctuate what has been I would say a tremendous career. Like just, I mean, it's just full of winning and she's also a kid. I talked about Kenzie and her commitment to Ball State. Look, Lanaya is going to stay in and play her college basketball in state too. And I think that's one thing. Look, there's nothing wrong at all with going away, going to a different region of the country to play your college basketball. But I also think that it does add maybe a level of attraction and a storyline that I think we all kind of remember. And when you have these kids that will play their college basketball in state, it is nice to see them play out their final senior year to see what kind of momentum that they can create going into college. You see that with, kids like Indiana. Maya Makaluski is a good example. Addison Baxter, maybe another really good example at Butler. Some of these kids that we talk about on here, they're going to be playing their college basketball in state. And so that'll be really fun. And Lanaya is no exception.
Yeah. Lanaya too, battling injuries over the summer. And then she played through volleyball. She kind of altered her workload a little bit. That's something that her and I talked about. She kind of was careful with her workload, but wanted to be there for her team and to just play out her last volleyball season too, which is pretty cool. But coming into her senior year, she's within reach of 2,000 points. She's going to set a bunch of school records, averaged 13 rebounds, 26 points last year, plus a couple assists. And to that, you add returners in Sophie Goodwin, Layla Dawson, Jane Armington, Addie Bodenhorn, all girls that played. It was kind of a trial by fire situation, and there were some lumps to be had along the way, but I think that it really helped Lanaya develop as a leader, which is something that we talked with Newbie about, and Lanaya has been pretty open about it too, and it helped those other girls get acclimated to the varsity level, and now you get to see them take that next step, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch that team specifically, and Lanaya especially. Like she's just such a infectious personality type of kid, just kind of goofy in like the best ways possible, I'd say. She loves to have fun, cut it up. And Newbie does such a good job coaching them. So that'll be a fun one to track over there at Lapel. Heritage Christian will be interesting with Riley Johnson back for her sophomore season. They graduate Jocelyn Marshall, Casey Frost around her, but Trinity Taylor, the junior's back. So Heritage Christian will be interesting to see how they are able to build off of last year's run to the state semifinals.
Yeah, I think that was really good for Riley Johnson. She has the reputation of being one of the better players in the area, in the class, and she validated it with a really, really good deep postseason run last year. And so for her to be able to have that to build on coming into this season, I think will be a really good thing. The value in Riley, though, is like, if the kid heats up, that kid can just, I mean, she's just, she's all over the net. if she can get that thing cooking, because she's quick shot release, good catch and release shooter. It does kind of find ways to get the ball in the air in different ways. But her ability to score without Jocelyn around, I think, is going to be a big thing. We'll see. And she's, of course, going to have to play both ends of the floor and things like that. But again, I think in the absence of that postseason run last year, I think she's just a really good player. But again, at the risk of redundancy, just totally validated who she is as a basketball player by going on that run. And so it'll be another one in the area for us to keep an eye on for sure.
That inside-out combo that they're going to have there with Trinity Taylor, the 5'11" forward inside, who was good for 13 rebounds last year. Like if Trinity can come along a little bit as a scorer, increase her production as kind of like the natural progression from that 7 she averaged last year. I mean, that's going to be a damn good looking lineup over there at Heritage Christian as well.
Yeah, Trinity Taylor. I mean, there's a couple of other kids too, like a Caroline Wiggins, Alania Wills, things like that. But Trinity Taylor might be the best rebounder of the basketball anywhere in the central Indiana area.
Wow, that's high praise.
Really, really, really good. She just attacks the basketball with 2 hands. But you're right. Like, you just make light of it, right? Like, and for those of you guys that haven't seen the show, I mean, it's just, a lot of the stuff is really just kind of based on film study for me and things like that. But, I value rebounds quite a bit because I subscribe to the theory that that's the action and the statistic that punctuates defensive stops. And to be able to get stops, I mean, she, again, 13 rebounds a game. Let's say 7, 8, 9 of them are on the defensive side. I mean, she's responsible for punctuating 9 defensive stops. I mean, that it's just a couple a quarter. But I don't think that's hyperbolic to say that she's one of the best rebounders. Statistically speaking, that it's reinforced. But she's really, really tough and just has a nose for getting the basketball when it's a 50-50 ball.
One other team from 2A worth keeping an eye on, Triton Central with MaryRose Felling, recent UIndy commit, 22 a game, 6 rebounds. She's been one of those standout kids ever since her freshman year when she was on that's team that lost, I think, to Eastern Hancock in the start of the run that they're currently on in the sectional. And I remember talking to Brian Graham afterwards, and he highlighted MaryRose and said, keep an eye on this kid. She's going to be special. And the numbers that she's been putting up are phenomenal. She's got her college commitment out of the way, so it's going to be fun to watch her playing over the course of the season with a shorter but a different supporting cast than what she's had in the past.
MaryRose, I'd have to check the alignment. This is off the top of my head, and I'm just hypothesizing based on the geography of Indiana, east side out on 70, but I don't think both things can be true. I don't think MaryRose Felling and Kenzie Cook can both go on deep postseason runs. I think I don't think both things can be true, right? Correct. And so it like Kenzie with the Eastern Hancock and coming off the commitment and all the accolades and all the things that you're going to write about her and I'm going to say about her and things like that could very well be MaryRose Felling in the end. Like that, she's that good. And those kids have had a very competitive kind of rivalry in that geographic area in that part of the state. So that will be an interesting storyline as the season progresses.
MaryRose's favorite coach, not of her own, favorite coach other than her own, actually, she mentioned Sherry Dowd. She shouted out Sherry Dowd, the former Eastern Hancock coach in front of the show. Hancock. So that's fun. That's just a fun little angle, I guess, to the rivalry. And that was my way of clumsily transitioning to 3A by just a complete non-sequitur. It's the first show of the season. It's the preseason.
Well, she was Sherry Dowd was coach at Pendleton Heights too, I think, which used to be a 3A. So there would be another clumsy transition for you. But go ahead.
I'll take your word for it. Thanks.
I don't think I can make this worse.
Thanks, Danny. Who should we start with? I'll let you pick who we start with on this one. There's so many schools to talk about. Let's start with Greensburg.
Oh yeah, Jason Simpson's crew.
Yeah,
they didn't graduate anything.
They graduated 3 seniors, all 3 tremendous leaders. Leah West being one of them. But they returned Claire Larison. They returned Mary Harmon, who fought through a little bit of an injury bug, it sounded like, at the beginning of the summer, but was healthy. She's the kid who I will forever remember as the one who broke her collarbone at the end of the regular season, but was back and playing just fine by the end of that postseason run, which is incredible. That kid's tough as nails. But they're gonna be really good. Claire spent the offseason, it's a story in IndyStar, but she spent the offseason preparing for the added attention that she's going to be getting from defenses and finding ways to expand her game and to continue sharpening her strengths that she already has. The kid's really smart.
Yeah, before I talk about Claire, I do think that Mary Harmon playing in the state championship after breaking her clavicle, I do think was one of the best stories and one of the feel-good things about Indiana basketball, and one of the reasons why we dedicate so much time and energy in following this. That was really, really cool. And so for her to have another year, I think is really great. But Hank, don't you get the sense that Claire Larison was like, I mean, not just the summer kind of preparing for it, like the end of last season, like she is having Leah West and kids like that on the basketball team and Miley and all of them. Okay. Claire, and I don't look, Jason's not going to tell you like who was the best player and who wasn't the best player, but you just kind of felt like Claire was just ready to ascend into another level that maybe she didn't even know existed. I think that kid can be really, really, really good, and can make people, I certainly don't want to say forget about the graduating class. That would be super disrespectful to say that one kid can make us forget about that great run that Greensburg had. But turn the page pretty swiftly. Like, she's one of the best players in the class, if not one of the, 3 or 4 or 5 best players in the class in 27. She's one of the best players in the Midwest. She's got a Division I recruitment. She's got good height. She does things that just independently of the other kids on their team just stood out on the floor. Whether it was the defensive assignments that Jason gave her, whether it was her ability to just, shoot threes when screens went under, things like that. I remember just seeing kind of popping off on film. But I do think that Claire is one of the people that I think to really watch, because if she does ascend into what Jason thinks that she's going to, and what we all probably hope that she turns into, Greensburg's going to be right there again in the end.
Mm-hmm. She shot 46% from 3, 61% overall, and she spent the summer working to hasten that release on her shot, and she's focused on being more aggressive offensively. So when I tell you the kid's basketball smart, she's basketball smart. She knows what she's doing out there. She's doing a great job, and then she's adding on strength too, so that she can hold her own on the boards, and like I mentioned earlier, kind of handle better, be better equipped rather to handle that increased attention from defenses. And she loves to defend too.
Yeah, she does like to guard.
It's just a matter of finding the secondary scoring around there. Allie Powers is a great place to start. A kid who was good for 10 a game last year and 4 assists. Like, I forgot just how good and balanced Jason's squad was last year. Then Mary Harmon, as we talked about earlier, their point guard, 3 assists a game. So there's plenty of pieces there to build upon and build around at Greensburg, and they've beefed up their schedule too. A group that was up on Lawrence Central at that summer tournament at HSE. I think they were up by like 20 or 30 and then just let the league get away from them. But the fact they were up on a team like that by that much is impressive regardless of the time of year when you have best on best. But they're going to play Eastern Hancock. They're going to play HSE down in Evansville North. So they got some big games and some games. Greensburg isn't a super bad drive from Indy to begin with, but some games around here that will be worth going to check out. Let's see. Who else is there in 3A? Danny, why don't you pick our next school so that I can catch my breath and also find the next school?
I have nothing in front of me.
Evansville Central's a good one.
Oh, yeah, okay. There's a ton of really good Evansville. I mean, we talked about pockets, right? Mm-hmm. Central, look, wait a second, 2026. Yeah, so Maddy, Shirley.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Back. Okay. Look, the last time we saw Maddy Shirley, all right? And let me just remind everybody, the last time anybody saw Maddy Shirley in a high school jersey, wasn't she hanging like 48 points or something ridiculous like that? Okay. I don't know. You say the name Maddy Shirley, and I'm sure people are like, Maddy Shirley still in school. I actually hesitated. I think, and we'll have Soak on at some point in time in the year. But I think one of the things that Maddy Shirley, the storyline to follow with Maddy Shirley this year, in coupled with how far she can advance them in the postseason, is what she does in regards to like all-time scoring records. That kid has to be up there with the ability to just assault record books, because her ability to score the basketball with that high release and just get in that game with, when she had whatever it was, 48, 50 points or whatever, you can say like, oh, well, we're just going to let Maddy get hers or whatever. But as a basketball coach, I can tell you, okay, like the other person wasn't letting her score. I mean, she was just scoring 1v1, which means that she lit somebody up. Okay. All due respect. Don't write Hank a letter, but somebody got lit up for 50. Okay. Like 1v1, coach didn't bring any help and so on and so forth. So Maddy Shirley at Evansville Central, I think, and we'll have to just, like I said, Soakland will tell us what we're supposed to watch and what we're not supposed to watch in regards to her. But the last time we saw her, she was scoring the basketball at unprecedented clips, and I can't wait to see what she does.
Yeah. She's expected to see some minutes at guard this season. She's listed as a 6. She's Southern Indiana commit, listed as a 6'1" forward. She's going to see some time at guard this season, just as they fill in for some pieces that they graduated. But I mean, when you have a kid like that, I mean, that's going to be a tough assignment for anybody. Roncalli, which was the opposite side of that semi-state, they took out Cathedral. We'll talk about in a second. Roncalli returns everyone darn near from last year's team, beginning with Brenna Cerny and Elliot Loeffler. They're going to be a really good team.
I always talk about toughness when I talk about Roncalli, and one of the reasons why I always talk about toughness is because of Brenna Cerny. We had her as a guest on the show. I actually asked her a very specific question about that toughness, and it just comes out when she talks, okay? But you want to know who's also tough? Elliot Loeffler. It just, with the mask and the Rip Hamilton thing, and she just looks like every time she steps on the floor, she just went 8 rounds with a prize fighter. Like, that kid is tough, okay? So the one thing that you can bet on when you watch Roncalli play is you're going to see a physical brand of basketball, because their better players are naturally tough, physical kids. And I personally find that style of play very endearing. So I think Roncalli is a great watch this year.
Yeah, they're gonna be a lot of fun. The team they took out, Cathedral, graduated a lot from last season, but Caroline Wiggins is back, and they have some other young talent coming back in over there for Lisa Finn at Cathedral.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Wiggins is another kid too, from a health perspective. And we talked about toughness. I talked about, and one of the things that Lisa had said to me and on multiple occasions about Caroline Wiggins is she always thought that she could average a double-double. And when you have kids that you think can average a double-double, the precursor into that is they've got to be on the floor, right? I mean, so here's a kid that I think in Caroline Wiggins, I think is just going to have more responsibility given to her, with the graduation of kids like Guy and Wilson and some of those other kids that were a big part of that deep pro season run for Lisa. Maybe a little bit of borrowed money this year in what they have at Cathedral and what they can put together. It's not just Wiggins there too. I mean, they have other really good players. I do. Who's the kid that Beasley?
Maddy
Is
Riego.
it Beasley?
She
Say
graduated.
that again, Hank.
Beasley graduating.
Right. Yeah. So Beasley graduating and Guy graduating and
Jada Wilson
and
too.
Wilson graduating. I mean, I think with those kids graduating, I think that it does provide opportunities for kids like Maddy Wacko to step up, who was in the rotation, kids like Caroline Wiggins to do a little bit more. But I think an interesting watch on kind of the toughness piece and just kind of talking about Roncalli and Cathedral the same way. And didn't those teams play each other in the Final Four, if I'm not mistaken?
Greensburg,
not the Final Four, final 8.
6. Yeah, 8. Yeah.
Final 8. Yeah.
Cathedral, Roncalli.
Maybe we get it again.
Yeah. Yeah, and then too, we should mention that Lisa Finn has 6 kids coming up from JV, 6 juniors who've been playing together since their freshman and sophomore years, who have good chemistry. So that can elevate a team really fast too when you have that kind of cohesion with the group. So it'll be interesting to watch them. They're sectional, though. I think it's fair to say probably runs through Chittard again. Chittard graduates Anna Caskey from the inside, but they get a healthy Gianna Morelli back. Olivia Berzai was on our preseason super team. That kid's just a flat-out great athlete. Alex Kendall is back, just rattling these off the top of my head. They have a lot coming back over there at Bishop Chittard, and I know that it's really stuck with them the way that their season ended last year.
And one of the better 29s, also Gianna Morelli's baby sister, will also enroll there as well. One of the better 29s. And One of the earlier episodes, we'll talk about that, but our visibility to the kids that come in and play their very first, minutes of high school varsity basketball on a very public stage. I think, we just have a little bit more visibility to that kind of stuff. And she's one of the names that figures into a team that really kind of figures in also. But yeah, maybe this is their year. Maybe Chatard's year.
Betsy Traxler is also back. Megan Todd, Lily Braun, Hetty John, Olivia Maynard. Just so many pieces that they're ready to plug in addition to the newcomers in Morelli, who is expected to have an impact there right away.
Yeah,
I had a team in my head that I wanted to go to immediately after that, and I forgot who it was. This really is the first show of the season. Hamilton Heights, also in Class 3A.
Oh, yeah, talk about 29s. There's the segue.
Yeah. If there's a team that's set to take a big jump this year, and I wrote about them as you're watching this, I wrote about them yesterday in the under the radar teams, it's Hamilton Heights and just the influx of young talent they have coming in. Danny, better than I on who they have coming in exactly and what makes them special. I just know that it's a team that's set to really build upon what there was an 5-win season from last year. So I'll let you have the floor.
Well, first the coach, right? I mean, so we saw the coach have her experience at Carmel, and then we saw her spend a couple of years with Donna Buckley at Noblesville. And I don't know this I have no idea. We'll find out, I guess, when we start to see them play, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some of that, the odd front zones and some of the principles that Donna Buckley employed at Noblesville make its way to Hamilton Heights. But these kids are going to grow up together. So there's Bailey Isley, Zoe Curry, those are 29s, Addison Bloom, Riley Suarez. Suarez is a kid that I think has, from a college recruiting perspective, maybe separated herself in one of the top shelves, I think, of the 29 class, and one of those things. And she will, and you'll get it when first time you see Hamilton Heights play, you'll be like, wait, what is that? Right? Like, she's got size. She has the ability to score at 3 different levels. Good athleticism. You remembered watching her and covering her on the volleyball court, Hank. But I think the Addison Bloom kid is really interesting to me because she makes threes. And I don't mean to be overly simplistic. I mean that as a total compliment to Addison and not just a one-dimensional, kind of tag on her, okay? But if you can make shots, girls basketball now has kind of an NBA feel to it, kind of make or miss kind of league. I mean, I've seen this kid hit like 8 threes in games before, right? And she's just a freshman. And that stuff can absolutely be independent of like age and experience, right? I mean, if you can make shots, you can make shots. And so I think that's the one thing I think that's really interesting about Addison Bloom is I think Riley Suarez will attract a lot of the attention when you watch them play. But I don't know that they're completely successful if they can't find a way to get Addison Bloom shots. And Aaron will. And Aaron will. It might just be putting Riley Suarez on the same side of the floor as him. And if they make mistakes and help off, Addison can hit shots. But not very often do we see huge classes without huge, big-time impact names in upper class as well. This is an opportunity for Hamilton Heights to really splash onto the scene with a bunch of young kids and stick around for a while.
They're going to be baptized by Bayer. They jump in with Danville, Pendleton Heights, Noblesville, Lapel, and Chatard. I think that Pendleton Heights one will be one that I check out right away to see how they fare against a new look Pendleton team with Ada Hupfer and Olivia Jones over there. That'll be a really fun game.
Yeah.
Staying in 3A, I found my teams. Shelbyville is going to be one to watch. They return everybody. They had 0 seniors last year, a new head coach coming into this year. But they really exceeded expectations last year with a seniorless roster. Hannah Baker is a really talented player. Maddie Jones, their leading scorers back. Jayla Ash, she's the freshman coming in. She's a versatile forward. She's really good. Average 9 a game. They're a fun team to watch. I'm really excited to see where they go in terms of just taking that next step in their development and what's going to be a very competitive sectional that runs through Roncalli. Another team that can make some noise in there, New Palestine. I really value experience and cohesion, and New Palestine has that experience and just a lot of good athletes. I think if you follow the other sports, specifically softball comes to mind immediately with Sadie Eubanks. They have a lot of multi-sport kids in there, so just good athletes, and Craig has them rolling over there. So that'll be a couple more teams to watch from the Indy area. Danny, the next school that I want to pause and do a deeper dive on, though, is Delta. They have everybody back from last year, which was kind of a surprise run to the regional championship, to semi-state, excuse me. They won a regional championship, but Delta looks really good after winning that first sectional title since '93.
That's Jillian, right?
Yeah, Jillian Barr. Sorry for pausing her on.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's what
Jillian
I thought.
Barr, Griffin Knight, Addison Barnes, all double-digit scores. Jillian was good for almost 17 and 10 rebounds a game. Griffin Knight, 15 a game. And then Barnes chipped in 10.4 per game. And then you have Elizabeth Bamadiel providing another physical presence inside. So, I mean, that's a darn good roster they have over there at Delta.
Jillian Barr would qualify as one of the more underrated names, I think you could say, particularly from a college coaching recruitment perspective. I mean, I do think that if you talk to some of the assistant coaches in some of the regional areas, they know who she is. Haven't maybe jumped the gun on her, but I think we were really impressed with her ability to, win the sectional for that team last year. And we had, I can't remember the name of the person that we had on to talk about Delta last year.
Haenchen.
Yes, Cade. Yes. And we talked about Pizza King and all that whole deal and everything like that. But Jillian, look, she has an opportunity now, I think, to do so. We talked about it with kids like Courtney Matthew and things like that, right? She has the ability to do it now without having to introduce herself now to the Indiana girls high school basketball audience. Okay. But still, again, a little bit under the radars, but Jillian Barr at Delta, I think, that's one of the really, 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 really good players in that area for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to be, for those looking to see them around here, they travel to New Palestine, they travel to Shelbyville, they travel to Mount Vernon among their schedule. They also host Cathedral if you're looking for that Indy area flavor, but up near Muncie. So Delta will be a very fun school to watch. And then Danny, too, you mentioned the Evansville area and just kind of being a hotbed for talent, Washington, and what they have coming back and who they have returning.
Yeah, so we talked about Hawk and Katie Reed and all of that, but the return of London Gilly, I think, is one of the most interesting things with Washington this year. Okay, they were a very good team last year. In fact, I think I maybe ended up picking them in the round that they lost. Katie Reed is one of the best passing interior players. I call her an interior player. North of 6 feet tall. One of the best passers. Okay. The reason why I bring that up is because some of the passing that Katie does is high-low, right? If she has the tallest defender guarding her and she's at the slot or at the seam, drawing the rim protector away, it does provide opportunity at the rim for other bigger, more physical players to make plays. London Gilly's injury, I do think, did affect Katie's ability to have that high-low game last year for Gretchen. And so I do think that getting both of them this year, I do think that Gretchen has high-low ability, whether it's Gilly to Reed or Reed to Gilly, that I do think that because they have that dimension now will be a very difficult team to guard, particularly at any class that isn't 4A, because just kids don't have big players and they've got two.
Right. They're gonna be a fun team to watch. I really want to get down to the Hatchet House this year. I feel like this is the year to get down to the Hatchet House with what they have coming back. I'm gonna find a game and try to get down there because I've heard wonderful things about that place, and it's one of those bucket list type arenas to get to. We should mention Elise Crispus Addicts, Cam Banks, and what she's doing down there. She's got a first year under her dad. Now they have a full year under their belt now under her dad as head coach. So I'm excited to see what kind of jump Addicts takes and what is kind of a stack sectional with Cathedral and Chittard.
Cam's electric, man. You won't be mad watching like an Addicts game. She is pure entertainment. And again, if you follow any girls high school basketball, you're familiar with her progression. It's you see some of the stuff on social. You've seen her play in some big events and things like that. Cam still being in school, I think is so interesting. But if you haven't had the opportunity to really sit down and kind of watch her play, you don't have much longer to do so. So come and do it because the kid is super electric, particularly with the basketball.
UCF commit Cam Banks too, which
Absolutely.
is pretty awesome.
Absolutely.
Pretty awesome. Any other 3A schools, Danny, that you were itching to talk about before we jump up to 4A?
I mean, I'm sure there are that we can get to. Let's just move to 4.
Yeah. If you want to yell at anybody, yell at Sable probably.
Starting
yell
early.
at Sable this year. Yeah. Yell at Sable, not me. Certainly not me. Let's go to 4A. Let's start outside of the Indianapolis area. Let's start with Homestead, because my goodness, they are loaded. Thoughts?
Yeah. So many.
Yeah.
Okay, look. we can do the Helsum, Epps, Mollering, Ankenbrook thing, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And we can also do the Delaney Knoll thing, okay? I think one of the most interesting things about Homestead this year is going to be the development of the younger kids on the roster. Parker caught a break again, okay? Not that this guy needs any breaks, okay? But, you know, Delaney Knoll is going to be kind of a voluntary kind of holdout, you know, kind of scratch earlier in the year. She's fine, by the way. But when she comes back, it does give them an opportunity to play kids like Susie Perigo, Leah Worth, Agnes Bell, you know, kids like that, kids that weren't really, I mean, they got a 29 by the name of Malia Williams, who maybe not a lot of people know right now. Everybody's going to know her in 6 months. Okay. But they have so many really good players that I don't even think Coach Parker or those kids on the roster even know maybe what their role is going to be. So I do think early in the season, watching Parker develop these kids for what he thinks or prognosticates what their role will be maybe later in the season is going to be an interesting thing. But it's going to be easy to watch Helsum, and it's going to be easy to watch Ankenbrook and Mollering and all of those kids, okay? But watch Perigo, watch Leah Worth, watch Agnes Bell, watch those kids that didn't get chunk varsity minutes the last year, and watch what Parker does with them earlier in the year, and I think it can give us an indication of who Homestead is going to be.
They're going to be fun to watch. Chance to see them up here in Indy. They're going to be at Brownsburg. They host Pike earlier in the year. I think 2 games into the season for Pike, maybe. That'll be a really interesting game. Yeah. I think last year it was not a close game. It got ugly early from what I remember, but that was a lot different Pike team. That was a Pike team that was still kind of finding their way. And much to Keith's chagrin, I think that they found their way, and they're not going to be an under-the-radar team. And I think that's going to be a really competitive and really fun game. And we'll talk about Pike when we have DeeAnn on here in just a little bit. Homestead, though, staying up north, Warsaw, still really good. Really, really
good.
Yeah,
they are still really good. And again, you know, Bricker and Zartman, everybody knows that, right? But what happens now with the graduation of Brooke Winchester? You know, who kind of steps into that role? I think my most interesting thing to watch in regards to Warsaw isn't what they do with Bricker. It isn't what they do with Zartman. Those kids are extraordinary basketball players. We'll see them in likely a deep postseason run and playing in really relevant basketball games. We'll see them both in Indiana All-Star jerseys as well. But they got a kid by the name of Reagan Huss who transferred from Northridge.
Yep.
Who has familiarity with Doug Springer's system and some of those rivalries, and kind of, I think, maybe even grew up in the Warsaw area, but has been a really familiar name up in that area for a while that does project to be, a collegiate basketball talent. But Reagan Huss transferring from Northridge to Warsaw, I don't want to say transferring, ending up on Warsaw's basketball team, however she got there, right? I do think is really interesting because this is maybe rich get richer kind of thing, you know, and not having to maybe develop somebody that, well, they're certainly going to have to develop kids in different roles. But I do think I'm interested to see, they've had a lot of changes on their staff. Lenny, of course, is still there, but they've had a lot of changes kind of around Lenny. The way they play last year was kind of with pace and with, you know, secondary action, and they wanted all of their stuff kind of in the first 8 seconds of the conceptual shot clock, even though we don't play with one and we should.
Thank you. But
I am very fascinated to see, like, are they going to go faster now with Reagan and Bricker? And like, are we going to go faster? So, you know, we'll see. I know that the season ended very sourly for Warsaw and their community. And I think they really wanted that state championship basketball game. So I do think that there's a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. And I do think that they believe in that locker room very strongly, that they're not done with this run yet. Two of the best guards, they happen to be on the same team. So we'll see what Bricker and Zartman and Huss and everybody can do.
And they bring back their point guard too, Alexis Neely.
Of course. And again, and Alexis Neely just keeps getting better and better. Yeah.
Yeah. They have everybody back. So Lenny's walking in tall cotton over there. Like they're in a great shape.
The Peterson kid, right? Did Abby Peterson graduate? I should know the answer to that question. The golfer.
I was hoping you keep talking while I tell you to type faster.
No, I mean, okay. So, but the reason why I say that is because, like, here's a kid last year who came in off the bench and was shooting like I don't remember the exact statistics. If this was 6 months ago, I would be able to tell you exactly what she was shooting, but it was like 55% from three, some ridiculous bonkers number. Right. But now you have, again, kids that understand the system, know what Lenny's all about, know what Warsaw's all about, and really can play within their roles. Okay. This will crash into the ravine if Abby Peterson has graduated, but I don't think so. She's back. Of course. Okay. Good luck on the golf course. You tried to flag me.
I tried to tell you real quickly before we bring on DeeAnn. 3A Silver Creek is going to be really good. We'll give them plenty of pub as the season goes on. We can't get to everybody in the one show, but I think I didn't include them in one thing. Oh, my 26 for 26, and I had a bunch of Silver Creek people angry at me. I promise this was not intentional, although it is kind of funny. But Silver Creek's really good. I have them ranked 10th in the state overall, as you can see in the little ticker thing down there. And yeah, I want to talk about Norwell if you want to talk about Bloomington South. But Danny, first, let's bring in DeeAnn Ramey. Former North Central coach. DeeAnn, how are you? Thank you so much for doing this with us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey,
how are things? How are you?
Hey, Danny. It's going great. I can't complain. It's an exciting time of the year to get everything started again. Different perspective, but a little bit less stressful perspective as well.
It is weird going through and like sending out questionnaires and not seeing your name in there. I'll be honest, because you've been one of the staples in there. I'm used to hearing from you preseason, but this is even better though, because now we get to talk ball openly and about everybody.
Yeah. You know what? One of the things, I was in coaching, then I got out and then got back in. And one of the things I think I missed the most was the brainstorming with the adults and, talking X's and O's and, just talking with other coaches and talking about the game.
I was hoping she'd say the questionnaires and the interviews, but that's fine. The other stuff's fun too. So DeeAnn, I want to start the conversation with you. Obviously, we'll dive into the teams in that, but the thing that I've been itching and most excited to talk to you about is the transfer portal, how that impacts thing, and the prevalence of recruiting in high school basketball. Because now that you're out of it, you can just shoot for the hip and let us know what goes on behind the scenes. So let's start with the transfer rule, where kids can transfer up until their senior year without penalty. I just love to know your thoughts on that.
Well, I think I come probably from a different perspective. At first, I was totally against it. And then I got to thinking, and, any kid that wanted to transfer, we let go. To me, to hold a kid back, that's an adult decision between the parents, between the coaches, between adult situations that are making a decision for that child. The child had, in most cases, has no say in it. So why are we holding that child back from transferring? So when schools wouldn't release the kids, some schools released them no matter what the situation was. Other schools wouldn't release them for whatever reason that they had, which again, I feel, in my opinion, was unfair to, the players leaving, for whatever reason, adults are making that decision for that kid. But then on the other hand, you think about it from an academic standpoint. I'm an educator. I teach in the school, and I don't know that people realize the academic portion of what it takes for a child to transfer to socially. I think, learn a new school system. A lot of their friends probably in the school that they go to, they already know. But academic wise, are they in the same, spot as other academic classes from where they came from? And how hard that is to adapt. There's so many things that we're asking teenagers to do at, that age. So it's kind of a, back and forth with me on that.
Yeah. It is interesting, and it's interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out on the girls' side, because it seems like for the most part, the best players kind of stay where they are. It's not like on the boys' side, at least not yet, where kids are bouncing around. It seems like it's a little bit more prevalent on the boys' side, whereas on the girls' side, it's more different.
There's a lot of pretty good girls that are transferring this year that are going to make major differences.
It's slowly changing a little bit. I'm curious to see though how that side of things evolves.
Mm-hmm.
So, and just talking to other coaches, but it is interesting how that goes. What do you make of all this, Danny? You kind of see it from a neutral party, truly, with your involvement with the game.
It doesn't bother me. I think I do think that the way that we evolve in society, sports society, and sometimes at the granular level, like Indiana girls high school basketball, this is the ability to move is the same as it is at every level that the kids play at. I mean, you can transfer in college, you can transfer in AAU. Now you can transfer in high school. I do think that we live in a mobile world. People have heard me say this in different walks all the time. Like, my dad, he worked in the same company for like 40 plus years. But I think if you worked at the same company for 40 plus years, one might say, well, that they never had an opportunity to move on, or they were not motivated, or whatever it is. Now, don't color me with the wrong brush here. I think loyalty and staying at the same company for 40 plus years is a great thing. But I also don't think that moving is such a bad thing. Again, our generation, my generation, the best players in my generation were the Michael Jordans and the Kobe Bryants. Removing the Washington Wizards years, they played the duration of their entire NBA franchises careers with one franchise. The Bulls with Michael Jordan, the Lakers with Kobe Bryant. LeBron, who is undeniably the best player of the newer generation, has been with like 6 NBA franchises, and nobody thinks anything of it. It's just so normal. So I transferring doesn't bother me in the slightest.
What do you guys think of them making seniors? Oh, go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I was just going to say that, one of the things that, again, and, I've been in this for a long time, but one of the things I think that makes high school sports so special is that is the only time now that those kids can play in front of their peers, showcase their talents, what they've worked so hard for in front of their peers, and get that support from their teachers, from their teammates, the families. When you play in AAU, typically you get the support from the AAU families that on that team. You don't see it from the high school teammates. When you go to college, if let's say you play at Purdue or IU, the people that are going there to support Purdue and IU are supporting Purdue and IU athletics. They may not even know the kids on the floor, but they're going there to support. I'm a Boilermaker or I'm a Hoosier. So, I think high school sports is so special in that aspect. And I think we're getting away from it because, in some cases we're going to get to the place where we don't even know, the high schoolers don't even know who's out there on the court. And then what's that going to do to the fan base?
I do think in the society that we live in, and everything that Coach Ramey said is absolutely true, that we should romanticize playing for a community. And I can remember, some of these kids playing in the state championship and having these, these iconic moments, if you will. Okay. Like when Sydney Parrish had her, I called her Katniss Everdeen moment, that was about Southeastern. Okay. But we live in a world now where the brand of Sydney Parish is almost bigger and more important to Sydney Parish than and I'm not speaking for her, I just about this, but because of NIL and because of brand building and what you can do to monetize your future through basketball, individual brand building, I think, has an avenue that I think is really important. And from an AAU perspective and a high school perspective, that is now secondary to the kids' individual brand building because that's what they monetize. So it's not that I agree or disagree with Coach Ramey. I just think that that's where we are evolving, Hank, is that it's just a little bit more individualized now. And if that means that we need to let kids go to another school so they can look, NIL is an inevitability. We can argue against it, okay, all we want, okay, but we're going to be playing with paid high school basketball players very soon with shot clocks. Sorry, but we are, okay. So to that point, I do think that we are really just kind of dipping our toe into the waters now to kind of see where this takes us.
Yeah, I would agree with that. As sad as I think it is, I do think it is. That's the way it is going.
It's so tricky too, because I fully support obviously kids and the opportunity to make money and to monetize their brand and all that. But it also, and maybe this is just an old man take, but it seems like it kind of strips away a little bit of what makes high school sports special to an extent. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just something inherently unique about high school sports in that way, that it is about the team, the community, and all that stuff. And when you allow it to become more like a business, like college sports have become, and obviously I'm fully on board with the college side of things, it changes it, and it's inevitably for better and for worse. And the long-term consequences of something like that will be interesting as they play out. I also really, Danny, appreciate how you seamlessly wove in adding the shot clock and NIL as if those two things come as a package deal. that was masterful. And as someone who's been beating that drum ever since I got here, I tip my cap.
Yeah, it will really be interesting when we do come down to paying high school players. It will be, yeah. So I may have been blessed.
Do you think? Yeah. No kidding. Do you think the IHSA would ever go for something like that? Like, do you think that something's going to happen that'll force their hand? Because just based on everything that I've experienced, it seemed like they're kind of reluctant to change. And a change like that, understandably, I think I'd kind of be on their side with being a little reluctant. But that feels like one of those that they just drag their feet on.
Yeah, I to be honest, I think to some degree it's already happened.
Mm-hmm.
To some degree, it's just, it's not out there, or they haven't been caught yet.
Okay, yes. I mean, to that, there's some truth to that. Okay, but there's also a reality too that if that's the way we're headed, and if kids cannot sign NIL deals to monetize their own branding, prep schools are going to come in and buy them. Okay, and they have the money and the couch cushions, Hank. Okay. I mean, I could tell you 100 stories right now, and most of the audience probably knows the seats that I sit in regards to high school basketball, across different platforms and things like that. Some of the dollar amounts you guys would be very uncomfortable to hear them. Okay. But what would happen, you asked the question that said, would anything come in to force their hand? Yeah. Prep schools coming in and offering $100,000 to a family is going to force that hand 100%. Otherwise, you're going to see the best talent in the state continue to leave the state to go to prep school, or you're going to see the implementation of kids going to prep school within the state.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
It's fascinating. What do you think, staying on the transfer topic of making the kids sit out 30 days if you're a senior? Because that's going to be something that impacts a couple of the kids we're going to talk about here in a minute. But the 30-day senior sit out, what's the point in your opinion? Do you like the point? What are your thoughts, both of you guys? DeeAnn, we'll start with you.
Again, like Danny said, if we're evolving in that way, why penalize the kids? Why penalize the kids? Let them play. I don't know. Right now, it's kind of a tricky situation because, and I don't quite understand it myself. Depending on when they transferred, what they become eligible for, I'm really not sure. That's a fine line in itself. I don't understand sometimes the decisions that they make on why some people get eligible and some people are denied eligibility. So the 30 days, I really think that they should just be allowed to play, to be honest.
Real quickly on that rule. So this is from Austin Huff, friend of the show. He talked with Paul. For senior transfers, those athletes are only eligible to play immediately if they move more than 50 miles away from their original school. If it's within that radius, they have to sit out 30 days from the first competition date. So that's 4 football games and almost half the season for every other fall sport. So 30 days, so you miss a month of the girls' basketball season. So what, like a third of the season, right? A third of the season? Yeah. What do you think, Danny?
I don't know. I mean, you heard Coach say things like, I don't know, and I'm unsure, and it's the same for me, right? I mean, I think that the waters are just a little bit too uncharted. There's no precedent, okay? I do think that any governing body, in this case the IHSAA, does have to be a little bit more a lion than a lamb at the very beginning, okay? I would think that some of the 30-day sit-outs that we have seen that are kind of high profile probably subscribe a little bit to that theory. You can always get a little bit more lenient as you go, but I do think that we are all still very much in a learning process. I mean, we're one of the most connected people. A Hall of Fame coach right here on our podcast is just using the verbiage. I don't know, and I don't either. But I do think that 2, 3, 4 years from now we will have some precedent, and I think it will. And I think that's what we're establishing right now.
DeeAnn, one of the questions, I do that Coaches Anonymous thing at the end of those preseason questionnaires, and one of the questions this year was, what's the prevalence of recruiting in high school basketball? Not looking to name names or air out any dirty laundry or skeletons in the closet, but at least not yet. Maybe we'll do that off air. But in your experience, in everything that you've seen, how prevalent is that stuff?
Well, I think right now, in you hear it on the boy side and you hear it on the girl side. And one of the questions when hiring coaches or when returning for a new season, you hear it from the admin, what are you going to do about recruiting? How are you going to get kids in here? Now, what does that recruiting word mean? Does that mean keep our own kids? How are you going to keep our own kids? Or how, you're going to get other kids in here? And, and I just think that, that's just, again, the way of the world is going to be who can, get the kids into your program or keep your kids in your program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the recruiting thing, that is interesting. And there's a distinction to make. I think there's nothing wrong with recruiting your own kids when they're in middle school to come to your program. Feels like you kind of get in a bit of a gray area when it comes to recruiting other kids, middle schoolers, and then in high school with recruiting kids from other schools. I don't know. That just kind of.
Well, it's happening, and it's always happened. It's always happened, whether it be from the, immediate head coach, whether it be from an assistant coach, whether it be from a parent, whether it be from an AAU coach, it's always happening where somebody's in somebody's ear. And, it's come to a place where as a coach, first of all, the demands of our time have increased dramatically over the years. And so now, there's also now pressure that you have to go and attend everything that your kids are in just to make sure nobody else is talking to them or seeing who's talking to them or what they're saying. And that, again, it's, I don't know. It's just sad to me, that we've gotten to that place, but it's real. And you got to know, I think, know your program, know what your program's about. And, they either want to come to your program or not. And, but to go out and actively recruit, it's being done. So again, it's kind of like it's evolving. So it's almost like, can't beat them, join them, what I mean?
Yeah.
People are going to have to start doing it, but, yeah.
Do you have any crazy, of both of you, have you heard any crazy stories of what kids have been offered to come to school? Like I think Kyle Nedrip, maybe either the boys basketball or football side, has heard of PlayStations being offered, things like that. Have either of you heard any tales of what some of these kids get offered or have been offered in the past to come to a certain high school?
I'll just say yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
What kind of items are we talking? We're not looking to name names or expose anybody, but I would love to know what kind of items. I think that would be
Apartments.
that makes sense.
Apartment rents,
Yeah.
rentals, you know.
Yeah, the establishing residency is the big thing,
Yes.
right? And so, and Coach Ramey's right that residence is a big thing, but you also have to understand who the breadwinner is, right? So jobs and jobs for parents, I think, is another big one. Employment. I mean, we're talking. I mean, these are at the central core of how a family operates, where they live, and where their paycheck comes from. But yeah, it's if it's houses and if it's apartments and if it's PlayStations and things like that, then it's everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it just is like I say tongue in cheek, yes. Like I'll give you some stories off air.
Right. And you know that also staffing positions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've had it in
That's a great point.
Yeah, I've had 3 in my career. I've had 3 cases where, I've been approached by, somebody who wants to be a part of my staff. And with that, it was like, if you put me on my staff, I can bring this girl, and this girl, you know what I mean? Or I can get you this, or I can get you that. And, some people that have connections with kids or are working with kids, whether it be, trainer, any part, that's what they're playing now. People want to be a part of a staff. So, they want to have some sort of control.
Mm-hmm. That's a big part of the issue too with all this is the control factor and parents, and occasionally in a lot of programs, the power that they exert over the programs, over the coaches. I mean, we all have dozens of stories, experience of that stuff, but it is fascinating once you move beyond the game, just some of the factors and moving pieces and things like that happen.
And
5 years ago, we would have said that good high school programs there was a direct relationship with the developments of their youth programs. 5 more years, it's just going to be Coach Ramey, it's just going to be the best recruiters, isn't it? I mean, it's not going to be the development of their youth program. I mean, the existence of it, I do think is still important, but at the end of the day, anybody can just leave and go anywhere, right? It's going to be recruiting. And so, like Coach Ramey said, though, look, you can resist it all you want, but if you resist it for a year, I'll show you somebody that's going to be a year behind.
Right. I would agree with that. Yeah. And, it's, you go back to, again, I don't know, sometimes you're right. It's going to be who can recruit best. And, another way, I guess, to look at that, we're doing what I would say would win at all costs, no matter what. You know what I mean? We're trying to put together, teams. And with that comes pressure. You recruit, all right, and you get an established team together of really good, great players, then the pressure is put on you that you better win.
Yeah.
You're putting pressure on yourself that you got to win. You're bringing all these people in, so you better win, in my opinion.
Not only win, and then once you start winning, you have to keep winning. Winning is both a blessing and a curse at a lot of institutions. It's like if you win, it gets to a point where it can never be enough. And if you don't have your ADs backing, the admin's backing, suddenly that pressure becomes overwhelming, and suddenly you're out of a job a year or two after winning a state championship or something,
Right. We've seen a lot of programs that have, won state championships, sectional, regional, and then, they'll have a down year or two. But it kind of all depends on how you develop your program and how you start those kids to get to that place where you can even achieve a state championship, and, the recruiting and the transfer comes into play too, is like now as coaches, we're going to have to see how do we navigate the unity and get those kids to work together and to play together and to accept each other and play together as a team. And that it's not more, I don't know, there's going to be a lot more challenges in the locker room with parents. I recruit you. As a coach, what do I tell that kid, that parent, to get that kid to my school? Am I promising them a starting spot? Am I promising so many minutes? What promises are I making them? Or am I making promises? Are we getting away from, you have to perform to play? Or again, they'll say, I'm going to leave. You promised me this. I don't get it. I'm going to leave.
Yeah. There's not a good way to transition to a school off a topic like that. I don't want the implication to be that we're implying anybody like, on that note, we're going to go talk about this school now. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So we're going to do it as loudly and as uncomfortably as possible. And we'll start with Norwell because I don't think they've moved anybody in. They are moving up. They're the defending 3A state champions. They bring everybody back from that state championship team. Back-to-back appearances at Cambridge, and Danny, they are good enough to get back again, even at 4A.
I was sitting at Fisher's High School in June in the Scholastic period, and I was watching Eric Thornton play, his team with Norwell. And I guess I didn't realize that he just returned to the same kids and returned to the same team. It was I was literally sitting there watching the very beginning stages of them kind of putting their system in. Here's what's unique about it. While everybody else in June is really just starting at square one and square two, they were starting at square 21 and 22 because of the development of this youth program, which 10 minutes ago I said was completely valueless. But it's probably going to put them in position to win it again because it's such a system that is that everybody has bought into, but it also has counters, right? So you can sit there and you can say, as Greensburg did, we're going to stay home and make you beat us 1v1 on the floor. They have a counter for that. And so now the next basketball game, we're going to sit in middle third and we're going to make you make extra passes. We're going to fan out and we're going to work on X out, close outs and all of that stuff. And then they're just going to make threes. Their ability to do it year in and year out with that system and then watching it in June was almost mind-numbing as a coach because and what's unique about that, and I don't mean to belabor the point, okay, but Coach Ramey, you'll get this, right? Because transferring and because rosters are so different year to year, you don't get that continuity anymore. High school basketball coaches are AAU coaches now. They're building their team. They don't know what they have. They walk in for the first practice. They're implementing everything they can in the first weekend, and they're going and playing. Not Eric Thornton. Eric Thornton gets to do it very differently, and I think that's a huge advantage. So Norwell is going to completely figure into the mix.
I agree. I totally agree.
Did you get a chance to see them, or have you seen them at all on film, DeeAnn? Did you watch them at State this past couple years?
I just watched them at the State, and that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, that 1-3-1 is something else, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. He does a great job, And again, like Danny alluded to, the continuity and what he can do throughout the summertime just makes them greater.
It really does.
The youth programs are going to be are still huge in those types of community, right? It's just certain types of schools, where we're all surrounded with, in Marion County, let's say, that's where it's, harder and harder.
Vanessa Rossworm's back. That's a big name. Macy Salfrank, Addison Norris, who was phenomenal at the back end of that 1-3-1. Danny, I remember you were particularly excited about that and the job that Addison did on the back end there. Then you also have Waldman, Olivia Green, Jada Dale all back after some big steal totals. So Norwell's a really fun team to watch. They'll be at Noblesville after Christmas. That's become kind of a staple event for them. They'll play Valpo, and I think Snyder's also involved over there. DeeAnn, a team that you did get to see last year, right, was Fort Wayne Snyder, correct? So you got to
Yes.
look at Cooper and the young lady that they have over there who's been picking up crazy D1 interest.
Yeah, I think she's somebody special. Fort Wayne Snyder, he does a great job with them. They're very athletic, but he's had a lot of great talent, but he lost some talent early on. And with you have to remind me,
Jordan Poole.
Yeah, Jordan Poole. So she was incredible, and so when Cooper is she's only a sophomore, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she's a really, really good player.
Dan?
No, I mean, look, you haven't seen her. She's outstanding. There are some 28s. Okay. I mean, we mentioned Knoll earlier. We'll get into Lawrence Central and Shellhammer. I mean, there are some 28s that maybe that have separated themselves. We were talking about it with Homestead, right? What do we get from Worth and Perigo and Bell and kids like that, right? Those kids are really, really good. Hillary's another really good example. Janae is in a group that I think has separated themselves a little bit in the 28 class. And so Janaea now isn't, hey, let's go see her because she's really good. How good can she be kind of thing? I mean, and what I'm saying, I mean, I think the ceiling for some of these 28s is, can you be the best player on the floor every single night? And she might have that game. Okay. Now, on another hand, somebody say she might not even be the best 28 in Fort Wayne. That's what makes basketball so great. But no, she's outstanding and
if he can develop some people to surround her, I mean, they can be a sleeper because definitely she's got it. And if he just and he'll develop some kids around her that will take the pressure off. But as we well know, when you're not I would say last year she was probably. I know for us, when we played them, we were trying to stop her. She was our number one, we're going to put our best defender on her, try to stop her, which was hard to do. But, it is, some of the teams that we'll talk about is that, we'll just wait till we talk about some of them.
You guys did a pretty good job on her too. 13 points on 2 and 11 shooting. That's not too bad there.
Yeah. Yeah. We had our moments.
You mentioned the importance too of building talent, and that's going to be critical this year because they graduated. The next four leading scorers were all seniors, and nobody else aside from Miley Hurst and Gracie Smith played more than 9 to 12 minutes a game. Who's returning? So a lot of youth there for Reggie to build upon. Reggie Tharp over there at Fort Wayne Center to build upon. Their sectional is interesting too. They avoid Homestead, who somehow stuck with Norwell, which is annoying. But their sectional does have Fort Wayne Northrop, a team that's kind of right on the cusp there of being a contender and making some noise with the pieces that they have coming back as well. Danny, do you have any quick thoughts on Northrop? We can always touch on them later.
You know what? I don't really, to be honest. I don't know much about them.
No, I mean they're gonna be brand new, but it's Kayla back. Kayla.
I don't. Yep, she is.
That kid, athletically, okay, as mind blowing as Janae Cooper is to watch. That kid is unbelievable to watch move on a basketball court. You hear me say things like, "Kid just moves differently." That kid moves like a major impact, high major collegiate basketball player. That kid is really, really good. But they graduated all the help.
She's back. Swin Jackson is back. And then Miley Waring, whom people may remember from her title run.
Swin is back? Wait, and Katie's still coaching them?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, no, they're going to be great. With that team, they're going to be great. That's a load right there.
Miley Waring, who was in the state championship game with Fort Wayne Bishop Lourdes a couple of years ago, she's back after missing most of last season due to injury. So that's a big-time post down there that they'll have there. So Northrop will be another team to monitor. One more team from outside the Indy area that I wanted to touch on for sure. Bloomington South. I was a little slow to get on the bandwagon with them, but I mean, they played Pike down to the wire at semi-state. That's a damn good team. Riego, what do you think of them?
So can check this while I talk, okay? But is Rojas Sapera back or not?
Yes.
Okay. Well, if Rojas Sapera is back, they're going to be one of the best teams in the state. There were a ton of rumors that she was moving back to Spain. and all of that. Okay. Let's not forget too, that if you follow the national news cycle from higher levels in Indiana, that Darren DeVries' daughter, Tatum DeVries, has also enrolled in Bloomington South as well. So now you add her to a mix that's always been there. And she made the elective decision to kind of spend all summer with those kids too, playing like some AAU basketball and some summer league stuff with them as well. And so that's a basketball team that I think is poised for a run. I liked them last year. I liked them a lot. I thought it was one of the scarier games for Pike en route to their deep run. But I don't think it matters at all that everybody knows that they're good. I think maybe last year they were just a little bit early. And if Rojas Cepera is back and you add DeVries, now you have depth, you have continuity. No, Larry's going to be as tough as an out as there is anywhere in the state.
Yeah, they return what? 3 seniors, 3 highly recruited seniors, and then Rojas is only a sophomore, right?
Yeah, she's just a sophomore, and I think she's one of the best point guards in the state.
Yeah,
like, she's really good.
Yeah.
113 steals for Rojas Cepera last year. Julia Lashley too could find herself in the in the Indiana All-Star conversation. Jim Gordillo wrote about how the move to the 2-guard last season did wonders for her game, playing off the ball a little bit more, and just what that did for her game and allowing her to step up. And then by it all as well, shooting 50%. I mean, it's an embarrassment of riches that they have down there. And they're a top 5 team for sure. Mm-hmm. Shout out Floyd Central. I forgot them in my statewide Fab 15. I mentioned that to DeeAnn on the phone. I mentioned it to Danny before the show. I'm kicking myself for that. Somebody commented that they could beat all 25 teams, or that they were better than all 25 teams on the list. I wouldn't go that far, but Floyd Central is very good. They bring everybody back, including Elise Coleman, the multi-sport standout, who I believe recently committed to college as well. Moving closer to the Indy area, let's start with Franklin Central. They showed up on my screen. DeeAnn, you're familiar with them. Danny, you're familiar with them. Best 2027 class in the state, I would say, is on their roster. I mean, just all the 2027s. DeeAnn, I'm sure you like the rest of us have basically grown up with those kids from an outside perspective.
I tell you, when I was kind of doing some research preparing for this, it's amazing that junior class across the board is amazing. I mean, we're going to be in, for some good basketball for the next couple of years, I think, in this area for sure, because, Franklin Central, I mean, they return 4 juniors they're just juniors. Duvall, Hattori, Daugherty, and Baker. I mean, and I thought they were good. They were very good last year.
Yeah.
So, and just lost the Graves girl, but they're going to be a big contender as well, I think.
If Rojas Cepera is one of the best point guards in the state, so is Hattori. But I want to center in on Duvall a little bit. Fair or unfair, she will always be compared in that 27 class to Paige Schnoss and Ada Hupfer. Like I said, fair or unfair. But the one thing that Peyton Duvall has, with the graduation of kids like Gabby Spink and the graduation of and what's going on in Pendleton Heights and so on and so forth. Okay, Duvall's got the pieces around her to really take a step within that kind of trio. Not to say who's the best of the 3 and so on and so forth. And I think it's really just a personal pref thing. Okay. But like I said, fair or unfair, she will always be kind of merged in that. Okay. But she's going to have a great year. She had really, really good basketball games last year when she had the opportunity to use her athleticism to do some things around the basket and maybe out on the floor a little bit. I remember that she had a really good second half against Pike, where if you think about who they played on the front line with Marley Jeffers and Kamari Booker, it did allow her to kind of use that athleticism a little bit more.
And 2, I remember that sectional game against Center Grove. I think it was opening night. Peyton did a good job of kind of showing off that physicality a little bit, which is kind of a piece of her game that I think Vince and her teammates are kind of trying to get her to unlock a little bit. And we saw that ability from her to fight for position inside, to be that physical presence that kind of rounds out her game, because she is just such a prolific athletic talent. And 2, I mean, Franklin Central, the game that jumps out to me when I think of them is at County last year when they almost picked off Lawrence Central. I mean, they were taking them down deep into the 4th quarter. A performance not unlike DeeAnn Ramey's North Central teams there during the LC run too, but they put a real scare into them. They just caught fire from 3. And I mean, like you said, DeeAnn, I mean, everybody's back. That's a damn fun team to watch.
Yeah, they are. And they're going to compete and they're going to play hard. And, it seems like a cohesive group where they get along, they play and share the ball. So that's huge.
Yeah. They got the outside shooting Carly Holmes too. Shout out to her, a really versatile offensive threat. And
they also add Peyton's sister, Ella, as long as she's healthy. We'll have to check that with a more credible source that's close with the Duvall family. But this is a kid who has size, is as good of a kid at the interior positions as we've seen come into the high school level in a very long time. They are complete. I mean, complete. I mean, if Ella could, because here's the other thing too, like the presence of a kid like Ella changes what her sister does also. Now allows her to get on the floor a little bit, allows her to use her length in guarding, maybe a taller wing instead of an interior post player, things like that. And so I do think Franklin Central does have a lot of things that they will dictate in basketball games that will cause opposing coaches and opposing teams from a schematic perspective just drive them crazy.
Let's kick over to Plainfield. Hannah Menser announced last night she's committed to Ball State, another phenomenal pickup for the Cardinals. They're just rolling in it.
They're rolling them.
Berkeley Williams is back. Berkeley Williams, who on Media Day told me that my first question was terrible. So she's a hoot and a half. Thanks, Berkeley. But no, in all seriousness, I mean, that's a darn good team. I know that they're a little banged up going into the year, but I mean, that's a really good team. And they picked up transfers, Mariah Armstrong from Covenant Christian, and then Caroline Armstrong from Danville, who's a 11-point scorer on Danville's JV team last year. So Plainfield, another one in the South. That's a legit state title contender. Riego, I'll let you start us off.
They're a team that I could look. They have really good players, Berkeley and Hannah, great play. I mean, Kara and all of those kids. Okay. But I also don't care who's on their roster because they will. I mean, Kurt's just always going to find a way to be in every basketball game because he will figure out how to use those kids. He'll get them to buy into a system. It doesn't need to be necessarily even his system. I raved all last year, and I will continue to rave again about the staff of Kurt Benj and Michael Menser and Keelan Block and what those people can do with in-game adjustments and pre-game scout. That I do think that they're just a problem, and they're going to be a tough out for everybody. And you throw on top of that you have some of the best players in the state. Yeah, Plainfield's good.
Yeah, they. I know I talked to Kurt not too long ago, and he raved about his staff again, and you have to give kudos to him because some of the people on his staff are returning players of his. Yeah, and that says a lot about a coach. I think when, returning players come back and want to coach, and some of them are in volunteer roles. They're not even getting paid to, but want to help out and give back. It says a lot, again, like you said, Danny, to Kurt. But I know he was extremely excited because I think he thinks, he is going to be able to shoot the ball lights out this year. Yeah. And he's really excited to see how that goes this year, as long as he can stay healthy.
Berkeley's chasing a school scoring record that stood since the 70s, since 1976. Yeah. I didn't realize that she was that high up on the all-time scoring list, but Berkeley's knocking on the door of that. Menser obviously is one of the best 2027s around. She's unbelievable. And then two on that coaching staff, this is a shameless plug moment for me. But Kaya Farrell, who also coaches softball at Avon and works overnights as a trauma PA, or as a PA in the trauma ward at the hospital. So we've been following around and talking with Kaya for a feature that'll be out later this season, but she's unbelievable too. Everybody, you mentioned Kaya's name, and whoever you're talking to, if they know her, they will just go on for minutes on end about how wonderful a person she is. And having covered her, obviously, as a coach, I can confirm that she's really awesome. And it's cool that the way that she balances everything, an overnight job plus coaching two different sports at two separate schools is pretty cool. Hamilton Southeastern. They graduated Miss Basketball from Maya McAlusky, but they return a Florida commit in KK Holman. Kayla Stidham's a clutch three-point shooter. She's going to Bowling Green. You also have Ant Green, who's just a phenomenal defender. She's going to Earlham. And then from there, you're just you're filling and plugging in with a bunch of young talent and young new faces.
Yeah, Hamilton Southeastern had one of the best JV teams last year. So the thought that they're, you graduate Miss Basketball and you're devoid or you don't have talents is just not true. I think the one thing that I would say from a preseason perspective is if you go back to the second half of the Carmel game last year, when KK Holman hit those couple of threes and the entire team kind of rallied around. Again, we don't have a statistical department for this podcast, okay? But I would still love for somebody at Southeastern to tell me what Kennedy Holman shot from the 3-point line from halftime of the Carmel game to the end of their postseason run, which ended at Case Arena against Warsaw. I bet it was over 42, 43%. So the thought that Kennedy Holman is this downhill attacker who needs to get in the paint to do things, I think sells her completely short. And I think part of her Miss Basketball candidacy coming into the year is going to be, how do opposing coaches, not us as fans, but how do other opposing coaches view her ability to shoot the three? Are they going to pick her up inside pack line? Are they going to help off? Things like that how Satterfield, how other coaches play Holman and Satterfield, and I think is going to be telling. If she can make shots the way that she did last year from the second half of the Carmel game on, then you can remove the sentence, but they graduated Miss Basketball. Like they might have Miss Basketball on their roster now. But I do think that, you have kids like, Brindley's sister coming up. You have other kids that can shoot threes. I think that's going to be very similar to what they were last year, which is a lot of 3 PMs. It's just not going to be Makaluski. I think it's going to be a whole different people. It's just going to be a whole different set of players. And we're seeing it right now that Holman shot 45% over her final 14 games. 45 is crazy. That's a crazy number for a kid who was picked up below the 3-point line in some basketball games. I think that speaks to how hard of a guard she truly is. So,
we sat there
Gators
at the Hall of Fame Classic after the first game, Danny, and I said KK put up however many points in the first game, but it was very quiet however many points it was. And you mentioned it's because the 3-ball. She didn't have the 3-ball working yet. LC, she got it going, and that was kind of the launching point for her season. And when she really, everybody knew she was good. Everybody knew that she's one of the state's best, but that's really oh, she's good.
Yeah, she's good. And let's watch pace this year too for them, right? I do think that they're at times, I think, against Warsaw last year, and maybe this is because Warsaw wanted to push pace and they wanted to cram as many offensive possessions in that game as they could, but they did play a little bit tempo. I think this year Sat's going to let them go, okay? And I'm not basing that on nothing other than just hypothesizing that if you have KK Holman and you're on skates that you might as well. But I think they're going to be really fast. I think it's going to be a fun brand of basketball to watch this year.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Satterfield does a great job where he always has, some very strong players, some superstars on his team, but yet then he's created a nucleus that are great role players, and they do their job. They respect and have the utmost respect for those superstar players, know that what their role is, and then they do it very well. I think KK, since Makaluski is gone now, I think she is just going to step up her game to another level. I saw, again, the 3-point shot. We always thought downhill, right? And I think you're going to see that even explode more to her game. Stidham is another one that I think is really working on. She is a tremendous shooter. Everybody knows that. I think towards the end of the season, you saw her get better and get a little bit more physical in the paint and start to make some of those drives. So if she does that and she's able to drive a little bit and, step back and make those shots, that's even going to, add to that puzzle that he needs. But, it's always interesting when you've got 3 really good players, that's hard to defend. Now, you take one of those away, it's a little bit easier. Who's going to step up?
Mm-hmm. And the defensive side too is going to be interesting. That's the thing with KK is she's so athletic. She's such a good defender, especially in the full court. I think they started breaking that out maybe in sectional last year, I want to say, where it was her and Ant, and it might have actually been Ant Green who made the call. It was like, hey, KK, get up here. We're going to start pressuring. And that's what flipped the game there in the sectional championship against Westfield, was that defensive pressure. So I'm curious to see how much of that is implemented and how it's deployed over the course of the season there.
And how aggressive he is with KK early on in the game, because you don't want to lose her.
Yeah.
She can't be sitting on the bench.
That's right. That's worst case scenario, nightmare scenario there. Real quickly, I think Zionsville is one of those teams that could take a jump this year. They have a lot of young talent coming back. Mackenzie Chapman's obviously great. Emma Tinder was a phenomenon last year. Emily Zach is a great player. I think that Jen Drudge has a lot of really good young talent there. They feel like one that's poised to take a step forward. Center Grove intrigues me with Grayson Gilliard back. How do some of the young pieces fit around her? And then Brownsburg, kind of the same thing. It's going to be a new look team with just Elle McCulloch being the one coming back and no Avery Gordon inside. So they won't have an almost 6 foot tall post to lean upon inside. But I think that this is kind of good for Sable's system where they're going to get up in tempo, shoot a lot of threes and get going, kind of rapid fire there. And then Pendleton Heights too. Let's throw them in there. The opposite of Brownsburg. Graduated Casey Warfel, their high-flying, high-scoring guard, but have Ada Hupfer back, and then Olivia Jones, who was phenomenal over the course of last season, really came into her own. So kind of a package deal there for teams as I try to push us through. You guys have any thoughts on any of those teams?
Yet I would add a point to the Zionsville thing. With the graduation of Meredith Tipner and Maya Makaluski in Sectional 8, Sher Holman and Stidham and everybody's still there, and then the graduation of the Big 25 class at Carmel, it does provide some continuity and some open space for them to come in and be one of the better teams in that sectional. I'm a big Zach fan. Tinder had a good summer shooting the basketball. Chapman and we know Chapman what she can do. But I think you're right on Zionsville. I think Zionsville's poised for a turnaround season.
And I thought with Jennifer, coming in, I thought they were one of the most improved teams. If you saw them at the beginning of the season last year and then towards the end of the season, I think they were one of the most improved teams that I've seen. And I think she'll just continue to improve and get better.
Absolutely agree. Mount Vernon kind of falls into the same category, I feel like, as the Hamilton Heights, where they're set to make a big step forward. We'll talk about them a little bit more in depth, I think, as the season goes on. The next team I'd like to deep dive on is Pike. Keith, we waited until the 1 hour, 53-minute mark to talk about your team. So I hope that's under the radar enough for you, buddy. But Pike is really, really good. DeeAnn, them being in the county, you're obviously quite familiar with Pike and what they have coming back. I mean, that's a tremendous unit they have over there.
Yeah, probably one of the most athletic teams that you're going to come across. They've got the inside play with Jeffers and Booker, and then you got the guards that are just speedsters down, defenders. You got depth. He's got his biggest problem is going to be how he keeps everybody happy, And then, last year when we were talking about the transfer, Alana Devine transferring in from Ben Davis was huge for him last year. That was a huge get for him. And, I'm not sure that they do as well as what they did without her. But just a wealth of talent and, they're going to be exciting to watch. Oh, yeah. It will be how disciplined will they be against a few teams that will be able to handle some of their transition.
That can speed them up, you mean? Yeah.
Well, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Heat them up.
Danny, it's not just about what they return to. It's also what they add in the 29 class. I mean, you talk if there's 10 impact 29s that can affect a high school varsity basketball season, they've got 2 of them. I'm not 1, 2 of them. Savea Mitchell and Malia Evans. So how Keith early in the year develops these kids so they are a big part of their run, I think is one of the most interesting things in coaches watching coaches. Because that you could go trial by fire, you could also slow play it, but at the end of the day, like these kids are, they're extraordinary talents. Okay. Yes. I mean, I think they're both on Indiana high school all-star trajectory very early. They haven't played a high school basketball game yet, so that's super unfair, but they both have high major collegiate offers right now, and that's not something that's normal. Like, I mean, they approached their freshman high school season with more high major, forget Division I, high major Division I offers than they had high school credits. Like, that's what Keith returns to the number 1 ranked team in the state. So, Keith, good luck, man.
Yeah.
Good luck.
He's got to, if he can figure out the sauce to keep everybody happy, it's going to be, he's going to be able to write a book and make millions.
Keith's such a great coach. I don't know that he gets his flowers maybe publicly as much as he should, but I know in the coaching circles he's very well respected.
He's
just
respected
for having
a
a long
for
career.
sure.
He's done a good job. Also, Marley Jeffers. Just whenever we talk about her, I love that kid's story where she was kind of talked down a little bit when she was growing up, coming through, said she could do it, and then, I mean, she just exploded. She found coaches that believed in her, willing to stick with her. So good for her. And then Kamari Booker, too. I mean, I feel like whenever we talk about Kamari, we have to talk about what she did in the sectional, the buzzer beater against Plainfield, and the antics against Avon. I mean, that kid, just unbelievably clutch what Kamari did in the postseason, too. And, God, it feels like we're just kind of scratching the surface on that lineup, too, because there's so many names on there. You can't get to everybody.
Yeah, Sanaya Smith is Sanaya Smith is one of the best natural scorers in the 27 class, and you throw her into that tremendous backcourt, right? I mean, she might not even start this year. But Kamari, you mentioned Kamari. Like, Kamari finished that postseason run with 0 Division I offers, and then came to her first workouts in June with like 6 or 7 Division I offers, threw a couple more on top, and is now entering the season as a Northern Illinois commit. Like, that kid's trajectory for how good she's gotten has steepened even. And so, yeah, I think it's easy to say, what they returned, but I think the development of these kids, and Keith is one of those guys that's super involved in what these kids do between March 1st and September 1st. Like, he's very involved in that with all of his kids. Okay. And I think that you're going to see the development of kids like Booker. I think you're going to see that development plan kind of pay dividends, because this kid is more than an athlete. She does some things on the basketball court that I think, justify her, whatever, half dozen Division I offers that she got in like a 1 week span during the summer.
Ben Davis, Dan, you got to see them up close personal last year. Speaking of teams that kind of steadily improved, I mean, Ben Davis, they kind of went on that run late in the season. It's a little different now. They lost Aubrey Ingram, their second leading scorer, to transfer. They bring back Shania Curry. Aliyah Salter is back, part of a big senior class. They feel like one of those teams that can maybe make some noise over the course of the season. What do you make of Ben Davis?
Yeah, I think, you can't count Stan out in any game. So, Stan Binge is, he's amazing. He's an XO guy. He's, but he, I know he's really excited about some freshman kids, some young kids that he's got coming up, and that he's expecting, I think, to perform for him this year. And I know he's really excited. They may start off, struggling, but then he'll have them ready to go by the end of the season where it needs to be. So, but I know he's excited about this season.
Shania Curry, 365 days ago at this point, was just okay. When she was in the sectionals, in the Plainfield game, I want to say, might have been the best player on the floor. Like, really, really good. Okay. Now she's had an entire summer, and now she's tried to develop. I use all of that to kind of say Shania Curry is the real deal. Okay.
I would agree
multiple
with that.
Division I offers right now. That kid is totally capable of being an alpha dog on a highly competitive 4A basketball team in Indianapolis.
Yeah, she was one of the most improved players, I think, from day one to the end of the season last year. And and again, just I agree with you.
I had a coach point out to me, by the way, too, and this is just kind of a little side note about Shania Curry. I had a coach that I respect a lot kind of point this out to me when I was actually watching some film on Ben Davis. They told me to watch Shania Curry after their season ended. Like, that kid cares. Like, she absolutely cares about winning and losing. And when you have one of the winningest basketball coaches leading your program and you care about winning, that tends to be a formula that leads to left column instead of right column. So I do think that Shania Curry is one of those kids that I've gotten to know better throughout the years or throughout the last few months. I really, really like her game.
Yeah. And, it's a tribute to her also because, Ben Davis has had a lot of moving parts in the last couple of years, and she hasn't been one of them. She stayed, she's been loyal, she's bought in to stand, and that says a lot about her, I think.
Yeah. Quick little ping pong round again for me as I remember teams that I want to talk about. Franklin is healthy this year, Franklin Community. So that feels like a team that could potentially take some big steps forward under Mike Armstrong, who his pedigree speaks for itself and just what he's able to do with teams. Noblesville is going to be very interesting out of Sectional 8. They graduate Tip, but they return CC Quigley, the Lipscomb commit, their post. Allie Hutchinson, another one with a lot of postseason experience. And then their point guard, Maya Blower. Yeah, she's really good. She's a lot of fun. Everyone watching them. Warren Central as well with the Jacob sisters. It's just seemingly an endless string of Jacob sisters, each one super talented basketball players. So Stacy has a good group over there. If you do have any thoughts on any of those three schools, I'll let you take it. Otherwise, we can move on to the next one to deep dive. Okay, Lawrence Central. Speaking of teams that took a jump, I mean, I thought they were going to be good coming into this year regardless when you have a player of Lola Lampley's caliber. Her announcement, by the way, for her college commitment coming up at the end of the week. So you will know this episode will post Friday morning. You will know later tonight where she is heading to college. She's phenomenal, and Nia McKenzie is phenomenal, but it was a question of what's going to be around them. How are they going to support it? Because the bench was a little thin last year. The answer is Riley Shellhammer, eventually Kiki Butler, and Aubrey Ingram from Ben Davis. So that's Fishers, Ben Davis, and Lawrence North. Whoa. So suddenly the LC juggernaut is back on track, and my God, they look good. Yeah. DeeAnn, why don't you start us? Because you've seen them up close and personal more than any of us, obviously.
Yeah. Well, to me, I think the big question, first of all, I think, in my opinion, Lola Lampley is, the best player. She is by far, she's got it all. I think last year I don't think we've seen Lola's full game, her full potential at the high school level. She may have seen it in other areas that she's been playing at, but last year I think she was very unselfish in the fact that, she had Jayla. Jayla got a lot of the shots. We're going to go to Jayla. You got a Derek Quee that graduated, that she was the playmaker. That's going to be, I thought she was huge for LC last year. But Lola now doesn't have those two, so now she's going to have to step up. How is Janan going to play her? Is she going to play her out on the perimeter, or is she going to play her out and in? Is she going to put her in at all? I was just, so happy and excited when she had her out. I don't know that who can stop her inside.
Yeah.
Who can stop her inside? And she has the capability that if you give it to her inside, that she can throw it out, and you have some other 3-point shooters. But her inside outside game, who can stop her inside? I don't know. And then obviously do we know when is Butler going to be available?
As I understand it, I think she has to sit out 30 days.
30 days?
I think so, as I understand it. But either way, when she's back, there's your point guard.
Right. And then Mackenzie is a beast. She is a game changer. She does all the dirty work. She is amazing. Her how she defends, how she rebounds. She does all the dirty work for them, and just a tremendous athlete. And she's huge for them. And then obviously getting Ingram and Shellhammer. So
yeah. Kiki, by the way, committed to Boston College over the weekend. Congratulations to Kiki. That's right. very exciting for her. And then, Anaya McKenzie feels almost like an unsung hero to an extent, the UIC commit, just because on a team with so many stars. But I remember she was the one, I'll never forget talking to Joe Huppenthal after that state championship game a couple of years ago. Joe's like, Anaya's the one who scared the bejesus out of us going in there because she's so physically strong and she's so fast. I mean, the kid's a state qualifier in track in the sprints. Just a phenomenal athlete and a phenomenal physical presence.
It's hard to teach a kid to compete, and she competes at no matter what she does, and no matter what other area, whether it's defending, whether it's rebounding, she's going to compete. And it's her mentality that she's going to win. And sometimes in my opinion, you can teach that a little bit to extent, but you either got it or you don't. I think if you play her in a ping pong game, she's going to want to win, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't make a difference.
I've seen McKenzie stand out athletically on courts that have other tremendous athletes on them. Like when she gets those shoulders moving forward, gets downhill, there is no turning her. And she goes right around you. So athletically, she does stand out. Look, they're going to be very good. I think an interesting point to go back to what Coach Ramey was talking about earlier, I think is my biggest kind of what to watch with LC also is we've never seen, and I say I can't think of an instance where we've seen Lola play on a basketball team without her sister. The last time that she's been okay, so she played on a couple of she won 2 FIBA gold medals when she didn't have her sister. I think this could go a couple of ways, right? I think if she just turns and shows us this complete alpha gene, particularly on the offensive end, that I don't think it really should surprise anybody. And I'm not saying that when she plays with her sister that she plays with a level of deference, but it's your sister, right? It's an extraordinary scorer, an extraordinary offensive basketball player. From watching it from the outside, seemed like she was the vocal leader as well. But I think the most interesting thing in all of this is seeing Lola play without Jayla, because I do think that it's going to be extraordinary. And then look, how do you reload? To reload with arguably who some people will have the best player in the 26 class. Not named Lola Lampley or whatever, or even with Lola Lampley on there, some people might think that Kiki Butler is the best player in the class. And then there's certain pockets that believe Riley Shellhammer is the best player in the 28 class. You literally added 2 of the best players in their respective classes to a basketball team that had a FIBA gold medalist. Just a ton of talent around it. But to me, the most interesting thing is going to be not necessarily where Janan plays Lola, but how she plays the game with what she looks for, particularly on the offensive end of things. So I think that's the big what to watch, but they are going to be a load to guard. A load to guard.
I can't wait. And this will be a question too, as we get into the season and start getting eyes on teams. I'm curious to see who matches up well with them, or as teams we see just tangentially, maybe it's a Brownstown Central, just who's able to match up with LC at different spots. And we'll get a good test right out of the gate for them with Hamilton Southeastern, I think 2 games into the season. So that'll be a really interesting game there with Hamilton Southeastern, 3 games into the season, Carmel, Westville, then HSE, Pendleton Heights, Snyder, and then a trip out to Kentucky for a tournament.
And they're coming back with a vengeance. They are, they didn't like the way things ended last year, and Lola's going to come back, and I think we're going to see Lola just have an unbelievable year.
She's a special talent. Did you know that there's a St. Thomas More High School? Sorry, this is an ADD moment. Did you guys know there was a St. Thomas More High School in Indiana?
No, I didn't know.
I did not either. They're the Griffins. I was scrolling down to get to Valparaiso, and I saw St. Thomas More. I was like, huh. Haven't seen them before. Real quickly touching on Valparaiso, Lily Barnes is back. Another Ball State commit, Danny. Just a phenomenal talent. I can't believe that kid's already a senior, but she's really fun to watch and really special.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're not wrong if you think that she's the most skilled kid in the 26 class. Like, really, really good. And you know, I use the word deference when I was talking about Lola, about some other things too. Okay, you know, Lily is a kid who she certainly doesn't defer to other kids on her basketball team, but she makes the right play. And so there are going to be times, I think, this year where she probably just needs to realize that you're just going to live and die with the decision that she makes and the decision that you probably want her to make, to get 2 feet in the path and in the air toward the rim. And so I would expect this year to see a very aggressive offensive output by Lily Barnes. And when you have a kid like Lily who can go out and get 35 on a night, and that's not exaggeration, like she can against any opponent, she can go out and get 35. That's going to be a scary team in postseason if you have Lily Barnes on the opposite side. She's
quite the talent. I remember watching her as a freshman driving up to Valpo and watching her against Lake Central. And it's like, wow, I get it. I understand the hype. I get it. Like, she was built like an upperclassman at that age, and you could tell she's already advancing this skill set and all that. And just the way that she's developed, obviously I don't see her on a regular basis, but make an effort and a point to see her at least, 2 to 3 times every year when she's around here in the tournament, whatever. Just the way that kid's developed has been really fun to watch, and great kid too. All the glowing reviews from the AAU season where she's kind of a mini celebrity among the kids. They're all rushing up to see her. Former AAU teammates are rushing up to see her. And then too, just within her own team with IGB over the summer, just super popular. KK Holman in particular was raving about her. Just an awesome kid. So really excited for her. As we land this plane at 2 hours and 12 minutes, kind of light for us, Danny. Any other schools that we want to touch on or talk about at all?
New coach at Carmel.
Yeah.
We graduate from the Rick years and now into the Jess years, and I think they haven't had the full complement of this 28 class that we talked about all year last year. In how good it was. I mean, we had the Bassey injury, and she's going to be back. Bella Ramsey, Maddy Wall, kind of rounding out that little trio, and I just kind of stop at those three. But there's a lot of kids on that roster. But maybe one of the blue bloods on the north side of Indiana went through some down years for different reasons. But to turn the page with names like Catherine Bassey and Bella Ramsey and Maddie Wallace on it, I think is very interesting to see how steep their trajectory can be in kind of their new form.
DeeAnn, any other schools that you wanted to touch on?
Well, have you guys already talked about North Central?
We have not. Let's talk about North Central.
Okay, because I was extremely. That's again another. Loaded with the junior class. I was so excited with that sophomore class, and now they're going to be juniors. And so I think they can be a sleeper. And then with the addition, I mean, Winston's a game changer.
Yeah.
Winston is another game changer because, again, I think she's on that 30-day waiting period as well. But, I mean, Lawrence North, if they don't have Winston in that state finals game, I mean, it's a different outcome with Warsaw, in my opinion. Winston is a competitor. Again, she's like Mackenzie for LC. I mean, she plays so hard. She's not going to back down. She does all the dirty work, and her energy, her competitiveness, her hard work ethic is contagious. And, you match that up with, Ari Harrington and Macy Loy. And, it really adds a different perspective on North Central. And I think by the time, Again, might start out struggling at first till we get to know coach's new system, but it will. I think they could be a sleeper when it's all said and done.
That's good. That's a really good point.
We lost Gabby Burris, who was the point guard, so it's going to be interesting to see who can step up and take that role. But you got Nina Whitehead, Raven Walls, and Naja as seniors, and then loaded with that junior class. I think they've got a good couple of years. And then I had Nia Jackson. Remember that name because last year she tore her ACL, and she's 6'4", very athletic. I feel that if she hadn't tore her ACL, I think that would have been a different outcome in sectionals last year, I mean. But because we had a game plan going in with my 6'3" and my 6'4" girls, but everything has to go the right way when you're going through the tournament and going through a season. Injuries play a big role in that.
And your replacement
was Lloyd the match on Cooper for the 2 for 11?
Yes.
Do you remember?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And I didn't know that you could have answered that either way. Lloyd's the kid for me.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and I'm not saying that if North Central played Fort Wayne Snyder that Lloyd would get her again, because Naja might. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But look at the length look at the length and the defense and the athleticism that team has, right? I mean, like Lloyd was always the kid for me that I don't want to say was, under the radar, underappreciated, but also she was also the kid that was maybe under the radar and definitely underappreciated. I think that kid is really good.
Right.
And I do think that she has an opportunity to be kind of a piece that introduces herself to the kind of inside 465, audience as being one of the better players in the area. But I always really kind of liked her game, and to hear, DeeAnn talk about how she stares Janae Cooper down, who's one of the best talents nationally in the class, maybe regardless of class, at 2 for 11. That's no surprise to me at all.
Yeah. Macy was one that we put on everybody's, best player to defend. And she is a competitor offensively, the last few years where we were trying to get her to step up and score the ball and be more efficient going to the basket. She just resounded to she would rather pass and let somebody else do it. So hopefully her becoming a junior, she'll step up and take on that leadership role and that scoring mentality that I know she has it in her.
Yeah, Lloyd is this year's Booker to me. Like, I think you're just going to see a huge ascension of that kid, and not just in the market of Metro Indiana high school girls basketball, but I think also from a college recruiting perspective.
Yeah, I agree.
Fakar Hawkins takes over as head coach. Kind of a trend too, where she came from the college level down there. Same thing with Jester Milio at Carmel, and then to an extent, Ella Collier at Danville, who came straight from Purdue into stepping in as a head coach. So just kind of an interesting, I don't know if it's a trend yet, but just anecdotally, those three moving from the college level directly into high school is always interesting.
I think you're going to see that a lot more to where, you either have, lay coaches or coaches, AAU coaches or coaches from, the collegiate level coming down to the high school, creating positions and not necessarily teachers in the high school.
Yeah.
Because they can recruit.
Yeah, that's right.
What a way to end it. And with that, we stuck the landing on the first show. Danny, we opened the air at 2 hours and 19 minutes. It'll probably be 2:20 by the time I showed up. This was fun. We covered a lot of ground. DeeAnn, we appreciate you coming on. I think DeeAnn will be in the rotation of hosts. Like I said, we love having you on, DeeAnn. So definitely have you on once as games get going and the season gets going.
Yeah. Danny knows that if things would have worked out differently, that I had an assistant that would have been able to recruit very heavily.
Say less. Yeah, we can tell you that story off air, Hank. Yeah. Gee, I mean, yeah.
So, but anyway, Yeah, but it's been fun. I appreciate you asking me to join you guys, and it's been fun.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do this again soon. Danny and I for sure will be back probably next Sunday to start the regular season with a little of a recap. There's lots of games. I have 3 on the list. I have state volleyball to cover next weekend, but Whiteland's at Mount Vernon. I really want to see Mount Vernon. Zionsville's traveling to Addicts. These are just Indy area games. There's probably a lot out of the area. McCutcheon, a team that we didn't get a chance to talk about, but will in future episodes, probably next week. This teases up perfectly. They host Plainfield, a battle of the 27s with Menser and Lily Graves. Thursday, you have Pendleton Heights at Hamilton Heights. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Franklin Central at Center Grove, an early test for the retooled Trojans. Then Kokomo at Zionsville is on Friday. That one I'm just mostly interested to see. Zionsville, I'm just reading right off the teleprompter. Ron reads everything on the teleprompter. But we thank you guys.
I don't have a teleprompter.
Thank you guys so much for watching, for staying with us. If you made it to the 2-hour 21 mark and you listened to the thing in its entirety, I tip my cap. That's wonderful.
Yeah, Keith did. Hi, Keith.
Yeah, Keith did. He's waiting for me to declare that I think they're going to win state this year. That'll be my bold predictions, buddy. We thank you all so much for watching. Lenny Krebs, too. You're not flying under the radar either this year, buddy. But thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.